a force unbroken, with banners high and hearts awoken. The sound of pipes, our war is calling. Like thunderous waves, our duty is falling. Stand tall, together we fight, with courage found in every breath. We'll fight like lions, defy our death. In unity our hearts shall sing, the legacy of warriors through every reign. With battle cries we forge our fate, in fields of valor we elevate. As shadows loom, our spirits gleam. Brothers in arms, we are the dream. Fearless, we take the night, with courage found in every breath. We'll fight like lions, defy our death. In unity, our hearts shall sing, the legacy of warriors through every reign. As dawn breaks, we know our name.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody knows their name this morning. I'm kind of a little bit at loss every now and then, but you know what? We get over it and life goes on one way or another. It always finds a way. And since I'm opening up that conversation that way, for about the first 15 minutes, I'm just going to have a nice little conversation with everybody about the bloodline. Okay. Because I have some questions too that I just popped up on me, literally overnight. But I'm going to get into the disclaimer and then we'll get into the show, folks. Okay. So everybody hang tight, buckle up, buttercups. You're going to be going on a hell of a ride this morning. Okay. I'm going to put the link in the chat. And Eric, the way we're going to do it, brother, this time is we're going to do 15-minute intervals with people coming on to discuss what they had going on. If they need longer, that's fine. But I'm thinking of Carl and Bear Cindy and several others out there that Dan and everybody and possibly even David or Melissa, coming on and telling their encounter stories and stuff today. About what kind of weirdness they've experienced, and I'm not just talking cryptid. I'm talking literally everything, guys. Literally everything, and I'll explain that much more in depth after the disclaimer. And I shouldn't even have to read this actually, since I already posted it. But the copyright disclaimer is posted. YouTube. This channel may use some copyrighted material without specific authorization of the owner, but contends that it falls under the fair use, which is the Copyright Act of 1976, which makes allowances of fair use for purposes such as criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, parody, and entertainment value. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. That being said, we use the Donna AI app for all of our music and music editing needs, and we also use the UCut app for all of our editing, intros and outros, and our video editing needs, because it's free, and free is good in this world, trust me. Anyways, that being said, we are going to get into it and we'll go from there. Let's see here. Let me take that off of there. Hold on. I got to remove. For some reason, X is not taking our upload this morning for this live video. So I apologize to those people that are on X or Twitter, whatever you want to freaking call it. But unless you're paying premium, I guess, membership every month for their service, their social media site currently, you can't post videos anymore. So I had to take it off of there. So give me that. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and remove this picture so you can see us glorious bastards here. And here we are. Okay, look at us. Hey, I'm fully rested, man. I got a whole 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I think I finally got to sleep around 2 this morning, and I tried to get up at 7, but it didn't work. I finally, after shutting the alarm off multiple times, got up around 9.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just can't sleep anymore. And I literally, I put it back and connect it to what's going on today. I literally do. As weird as that sounds, everybody has insomnia. I know, um, bouts and stuff with it, but it seems like the sleep depravity is happening hundreds of percent higher than what it normally would. People are encountering less sleep and less rest for a reason, whether that's environmentally introduced through the Schumann resonance of the Earth being screwed up, and the whole whatever NASA claims as far as the polar shifting and all that crap. It's just like those fake ass solar storms that they talk about that they say are coming, and I don't believe it. I don't believe it for 1 second. I really don't.
Yeah, not
That's
only that, like this week, I can get 5, 6 hours sleep, and I'm still exhausted.
exactly, exactly. Everything has changed. The dynamics of everything in our world, folks, has changed. Literally. Okay. Now, whether that was induced through CERN or through biblical prophecy or through shadow governments or whatnot, or a collective of all of those things, alien intervention, whatever you want to call it, um, it could very well be a collective. But the way things are going today, we wanted to talk about all the weird crap that everybody's going through. And I don't care if it's not cryptid related, that's fine. If it's not paranormal related and you think it's supernatural related, that's fine. That's what this show is for. Okay. And we're going to get this stuff out there and off our chest because we're a community of survivors and experiencers, and we're gonna do some good today. Okay, help people out and have them share it. You don't have to put your face on a screen like me. Okay. um if AI is stupid enough to mimic my face, then they're going to be the ugliest AI there is out there. So, anyways, that being said, I want to take a moment and talk to you guys about bloodlines. Okay, I know I said I've got this podcast coming up, but unless I slowly leak some of this stuff out that I have found and thought about and have actually conducted more research, going even deeper into it, um, the more I look into it, the more I just get blown away. Okay, um, literally, stuff is happening at an exponential speed rate, whatever you want to call it. Things are happening, shifting, opening, closing all around us every single day. And you have to ask yourself why. And here's what I came up with. Okay, and this is just my own research, theories, and possible, what's going on. Okay. Good morning, Ike, or good afternoon, depending on your location, or good evening, or good day. um, Bloodlines. We all know that the King. We talked about this backstage a little bit too, Eric. The King James version of the Bible talks about the bloodline of Jesus. Okay, and how certain bloodlines in the Bible are the bloodline of God, basically. Okay, or You know, as weird as it sounds, you can literally correlate that with the Anunnaki research that everybody's done. Okay. You can literally take that and say you got, let me see, which camera am I on? Okay. You got Enki, the youngest son, the sneaky one, the snake, the raptor, the lizard, the reptilian. Okay. You have Enki. Okay. Then you have his older brother, Enlil. Okay. And then above them, you have Anu, which is their father, who is said to be the creator. Think about that. Native culture, indigenous cultures around the world have for thousands upon thousands of years called God the creator, not a man with a long white beard sitting on a cloud. Okay. Not that type of creator. We're talking such a source, a viable alpha omega source. Okay. Because I just don't believe that you can take some form and make this that we live in. Okay. You would have to be a powerful source, a creator God. Okay. Not a man on a cloud with a beard. Okay, now that's just my opinion. Okay, and I'm not saying that to dispute the whole Jesus Christ thing, because I'm going to show you where that all links in. Okay, and in a short time, and this is just bits and pieces, so you guys can think about it, mull it over, and do your own research. The wars. Everybody talks about the Anunnaki wars, or the mud floods, or how the Middle East used to be once this pristine, beautiful kingdom like Eden until the Anunnaki wars. Okay. They talk about, and Eric and I have both been to the Middle East. We know, we put our hands down into the sand there, if you can call it that. And you can pull up literally shards of glass, real fine glass, because that's what sand is, really. Okay. It takes over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit to do something like that. Okay. So when you take in consideration the talk of the Ark of the Covenant, the writings of India and the Hindu faith, of all the weaponry that they had and all the wars in the skies that they had, you can correlate it and kind of group it all together, that it's the same thing, just different parts describing it different ways. Okay. Now, for the longest time, mankind has been fighting over land. Okay. Now, say just for a second, take a moment, that what if, I'm having a shortness of breath, so I'm trying to get this out here as quickly as possible. What if it wasn't about land at all? What if all these wars currently happening today and in the past weren't about land, weren't about conquering land and conquering, gold, silver, whatever you want to call it, precious art. We all know that, in World War II, all the arts, places that had valuable Da Vinci's and Van Goghs and stuff were all stolen during World War II. And for the most part, 99% of those have been returned. But, it's not about those things. What if we are literally talking about a bloodline war? Take, for instance, the movie Underworld. It's a perfect example. Just think about that movie, The Underworld, the first movie that started that whole genre, okay? And think about how they talked about the werewolf line, okay? And the vampiric line, okay? What if that was someone's way of putting it out there nonchalantly, trying to show us that the bloodlines, the wars are actually happening and have always been happening? Now, hear me out. You have Enki, which is part of the reptilian bloodline, okay? Luciferian bloodline. Egyptian hieroglyphs depict that bloodline. Here's the other aspect of it, too, okay? Is the animal human hybrid combinations you see in the hieroglyphs, and you see in India, and you see in all these other cultures, okay? Even Mayan culture and Incan culture talk about, the sky gods, okay, coming down. Quetzalcoatl is a good one. Actually, they even have the same depiction, and I wish John Montoya was on here because he could probably describe it better than I could. Because he's been to Hawaii a lot more than I have. In Hawaii, they have a depiction of human and animal combinations too. And even Easter Island shows it in some of the statues, which, there's so many things that need to be connected. Okay. Now, where I'm going with this whole bloodline thing, what if it's Enlil's the bloodline of God, of Anu, okay, the real creator, the creator God, as it says in the Sumerian text and in biblical texts that were left out. What if Enlil's line was that of the King David line and down that genre, okay? That type of a bloodline into Jesus Christ, okay, which was said to be the Son of God, God incarnate, okay? But what if that's one of the bloodline, the Jesus bloodline, the bloodline of God, Christ, that is in the Da Vinci Code movie, okay? I mean, there's all kinds of hidden secrets out there, folks, okay? Don't think I'm crazy, okay? Because this is all going to make sense if you think about it. Then you've got the Enki bloodline, okay, who has been called the god of music. He's been called the god of water. Okay, he has been called the god of enlightenment. Okay, think about that connection. All three of those things. Think about that and what's happening in our society today. What's the one place people go missing more when they're off by themselves than any other place in the world? What are they near? What are they near? They're near water. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just thinking way outside the box. But could it be possible that a lot of the stuff that is happening today, and with the onset of AI, maybe AI is going to be their tool to use to find that bloodline? I truly believe that people that have paranormal, supernatural, cryptid encounters and all that, I do believe that our bloodline is one of those two bloodlines. Okay. I can't figure out which one, Yet, because also people that are more susceptible to violence, to being angry towards humanity, which you see a lot of going on nowadays. Take yesterday, for instance. Okay, so-called riots around the country. Car fires and all that, which is a bunch of BS, if you ask me. Just everybody needs to get their head out of their ass and start acting like a human being and not damn animals. Okay. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. But what if certain traits that we have as human beings are a representation of, oh, thank you, Jessica. Thank you very much. And happy Father's Day to everybody too, by the way. I forgot about that. I see. I've been so lack of sleep and doing all this research. It's just, it's mind boggling the way time's flying by. But what if certain traits could lead us to believing that one of those two bloodlines is in us? Is why people that experience as much as we do, like Jessica, and you have all these other people out there, everybody in the chat, we all experience these weird, whether you call it paranormal, supernatural, cryptid, well, I don't care what you want to call it. You can call it purple, black, green, whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. Okay. We're experiencers. Now you take our traits. More of the people that are susceptible to spiritual connections, more of the people that are susceptible to arts, that type of, genre, um, talk shows, podcasts, I mean, these are all traits of a individual that has a mind that is thinking far outside the box than normal conditions would be needed. Okay. Native Americans have always talked about the sacred circle, how it's all connected, how we all are supernatural and spiritual beings. Okay. Plain and simple. Everything is connected. And that's true. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the DNA of the pinyon pine tree in our blood, and our DNA wouldn't be in it. Everything is connected. Plain and simple. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what religious person out there thinks. Everything is connected because everything was made by the creator, the source. Okay? The one true God, the creator. Not Enki, not his brother, not anybody else, not Lucifer, although the Luciferian bloodline has taken and twisted and changed things in this world so much that, and this is even before a lot of the biblical stuff has happened, because when you're talking about the fall, the fallen angels and stuff and all that, and Lucifer's fall, you're talking before certain things had happened here physically in this world. Okay. So you're going way back. Okay. So what we're dealing with here, I think, is a combined over the generations of a milk down process of knowledge being taken away from us. Okay. And being reinterpreted by certain bloodlines. Two bloodlines, one of two. Can't have the black without the white. Can't have the yin without the yang. Can't have the hot without the cold. Think about it. Two bloodlines. Everything we do, two bloodlines. Plain and simple. Okay. The DNA makeup of us, the mom and the father, two bloodlines. The Enki bloodline and the Enlil bloodline. The bloodline wars is what I call them. And that's literally what they are. They are literally the bloodline wars. Why else do you think we have had all this DNA collected years? Oh, find out if you've got Cherokee blood in you. Find out if you've got, Navajo blood in you. Find out if you got Jewish blood in you, Greek blood in you, find out if you got Neanderthal DNA, which is a whole nother subject. Okay. We're going to get into that too a little bit. But think about it. There are two bloodlines, distinctive bloodlines. They have been searching for so long for those bloodlines. Why? Why would they search for those bloodlines? Because they want to eliminate one of them. But remember what the brothers, also known as the Brothers Grimm, I like to call them, Enlil and Enki's father, Anu, is a jealous God and will have no gods before him. Will have nothing carved as a graven image to be idolized. Now, what do we have today? We have the Oscars, an idol, a golden idol for everybody to worship from Hollywood. Hollywood, the music industry, Enki bloodline. Think about it. There's a lot of connections, folks. Even the cryptid creatures that a lot of people are coming involved in contact with. The one thing that I've been trying to leak out slowly to everybody is that you have your flesh and blood ones. Yes, you do. The ones that survived the flood. The descendants of the Nephilim. Yeah, I said it. The descendants of the Nephilim. Remnants of the Nephilim. Not the sky, not the cloud eaters, not the 60-foot tall ones that the Bible mentions, but nonetheless, giant creatures. Okay. But then you have the Nephilim spirit that can be infected into them, which accounts for the red glowing eyes. You see, it's all connected. Every aspect of this world that we are going through currently, everything is connected. Call me crazy, but that's just the information that I have been finding out in more ways than one. I'm going to play something for everybody, and I want everybody to think about it. Okay. And then we're going to get into the rest of the podcast. Eric, after I play this short little video, I want you to tell what you think about it, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Yep.
Let me find it here. Now, this is another researcher that has been working with me a little bit, very little, because she's extremely busy. So I kind of follow her lead a little bit on some of this stuff, and I investigated, I researched it thoroughly enough to find out that it makes sense, that it literally has a viable theory behind it. And she could probably explain it a lot better than I can. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And she's not the only researcher. There's dozens of them out there that are doing the same research. And my hat's off to them. They are actually going to be probably the ones to solve a lot about what's going on today. Anyways, it's a 4-minute video or so. I'm going to get my coffee in the meantime, and here we go.
You will never guess who this man descends from. Let's take a look into the bloodlines of the Anunnaki. These ancient gods, they used to use men to carry out their battles and wars. This battle never ended. You're going to get a certain understanding now who this man descends from and why everything in his life seems to be designed to push him towards success. Why has he achieved all this power? I'm talking about Donald Trump. A man that sparks either admiration or outrage, depending on who you ask. But this story is not about politics. It's about bloodlines and agendas, hidden ones. One that goes back way before the founding of America, even before the Roman Empire. According to ancient Mesopotamian texts, there were sky beings known as the Anunnaki, those who from the heavens came to earth. They weren't myths to the Sumerian. They were the gods. They were real physical beings who ruled over mankind and left behind symbols, temples, and blood. One of their leaders was Enlil. He was a powerful and often very strict figure. He was known as the Lord of the Command, and some believe that he was the original inspiration for Zeus, with his white platinum blonde hair, thunderous presence, and absolute power. He was the ultimate authority on Earth. His children, it's said, were spread across Earth to maintain the order. Now over time, his bloodline mingled with others. Therefore, it became very hard to trace. But hard does not mean impossible. Blonde hair, Northern European features, strong will to dominate and lead. These are the traits linked to the Enlil line. When researchers started tracing elite family lines, they discovered that there were these hidden royal bloodlines. And that's when something strange happened. They realized that there are a lot of royal descendants that are not royal at all. This is where the Trump family popped up again and again and again, tied to not just Germanic and Scottish roots, but to far older lineages. Some of these lineages are what is whispered in esoteric circles. You know, the ones that have off-world origins. Even more fascinating, this is all tied to the Pleiadians, a race of tall, fair-skinned humanoids, which are often reported to have communicated with humans. These are extraterrestrials that are often reported in contact cases. Now, it's believed that they are descendants or somehow connected to the Anunnaki bloodlines as well. And it is said that they protect the Enlil bloodline. They will do everything to protect this bloodline and to avoid its extinction, nudging them towards influence during key moments in history. And that brings us to now. Because while the world sees the Middle Eastern wars as political or religious, some researchers claim that these conflicts are actually the continuation of these ancient feuds between Enkyites and Enlilites, the factions between the two half-brothers, the two Anunnaki brothers that disagreed on the fate of mankind. Enki, the geneticist, wanted to empower mankind. Enlil, the general, wanted to control them. That battle, they say, never ended, just went underground through royal bloodlines, secret councils. Now one could say, in this time and era, geopolitics. So when I see a man like Trump rise against all odds, commanding attention, defying the norm, and shaking up these global systems, maybe it's not just a political strategy. Maybe it's destiny or a pushed destiny. The echo of ancient wars that are still being played out to this day. Not in the heavens, but right here on Earth, through the sons of the gods. This raises a lot of questions. So if Trump is of the Enlil line, then the other side is of the Enki line? And what if we've gotten it all wrong? What if the one brother that is presented as the nice one ends up being the opposite? So many possibilities, so many questions. What do you think about it? Is Trump a descendant of the Enlil line, and what does this mean for us?
Well, I want you to think about that first off, Eric, okay? But while you're thinking about that, I'm going to say this also. If you think about our history, think about our history as being attached to the Vatican, okay? Think about our history as Freemasons throughout the whole biblical process, okay? Think about, and hear me out on this, okay? Think about the Knights Templar. What did they find out? Why were ceremonies done certain ways, and why did they leave the church? I'm just saying, and to all my Catholic friends and family out there, I love you to death. I do. This is just a theory, okay? What if this whole thing has been a blood war and it's just continued time and time again? What if CERN was actually controlled by a certain aspect of a bloodline? What if NASA was controlled by a certain asset of the bloodline? What if BlackRock, Vanguard, Berkshire Hathaway, what if they were controlled by a certain aspect of a bloodline? Say the Rockefellers. What if the Ra bloodline, the bloodline of Enki, was the Rothschilds? Childs, the children of Ra. You see where I'm going with this? If these bloodlines have intermixed with human bloodline over time, they're going to try every way possible to keep their bloodlines in charge, whether it's the Enlil bloodline or the Enki bloodline, whether it's the bloodline of Jesus Christ and God or the bloodline of Lucifer and his fallen ones. I'm telling you, if you think about it and you research it, the more you dig in, the deeper down the rabbit hole you're going to go. And trust me, I've gone down a lot of rabbit holes because of this. I really have. And the only reason I'm actually bringing this up today is just in case something happens to me. I have to get this information out. Remember, certain traits and certain characteristics of people will depict the bloodline. Certain abilities, certain inabilities will depict the bloodline. It's not about skin color. It's not about eye color. It's not about hair color. That's what they want you to think it's about. It's not about gold. It's not about oil in the ground. It's not about putting satellites to protect us and fighting over the air above us. We don't have control of the air above us. The angels do. They always have. Which leads me to the reason why we can't see them most of the time. Think about it. So with the onset of AI and the whole robotics thing, I leave it up to you guys to determine, are they going to try and wipe out a bloodline? Is that it? Kind of like what a certain short little fat with a beard or a mustache in the middle of his top lip did years ago, tried to eliminate a bloodline. Think about it. It all makes sense when you actually take and study and don't look at the text like the King James version is the only thing we can base it on, because it's not. It's not. It's been ripped apart and misquoted. Yes, there's some 90% of it that is factual, okay? But I'm telling you, there is more to the story, and they are not disclosing it. The two bloodlines are battling. They have always been battling. Always. And that's why we're seeing a lot more and having a lot more interact with us. Think about it. I'm going to get my coffee, and Eric, tell me what you think, and then we'll see if we can bring some people on. I'd like to see Carl and Cindy come on if they could. Okay.
Yeah. So, I was sitting there thinking, I'm trying to remember the Native American serpent that lived in the water, that a warrior had to go and see a witch to be able to learn the secrets and get the correct arrows to unalive this serpent. And then when he unalived this serpent, sorry guys, that came up quick. I apologize. Unalived this serpent, he took the heart back with him. He wasn't supposed to show anybody, and if he did everything that this heart told him, then nothing but good would happen to him. And then one day he lost his mind over doing all these tasks for this heart, and he tried to show it to everybody, and it turned into a rock. So I mean, there's that. I mean, there's Jormungandr, another serpent. I mean, water is tied to every single culture around the world. Native Americans tell you that water is the blood of Mother Earth. It is sacred. You're supposed to respect it. We also
Why?
need water to survive.
Yeah, and also, I don't mean to interrupt, but why else do you think indigenous people around the world give blessings to the water before we cross them?
Mhm.
Before we do anything
Yep.
with water, we put down tobacco and we say thank you for our safe passage, because we know and we have known for thousands of years that this bloodline of the Luciferian bloodline, the Enki bloodline, the reptilian bloodline, whatever you want to call it, is within the spirit of the water. Think about it. Why do you think so many people come up missing around water? It makes sense. If you're not limited and have blinders on, you can see it.
Yeah. Well, you also got to think too. The Greeks always paid respect to the water before they went on a voyage. The Norse always paid respect to the water before they went on a voyage. So many cultures. I mean, the Polynesian. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of all these cultures that paid respect to the waters before going on a voyage. We to this day still do it. Our Navy still has rituals and in certain acts they do for tradition upon setting out to sea. Okay, now, honey, if you're going to be up here, you're going to have to stop ripping my
Now,
head off.
what about christening? Think about christening of ships and boats. You have to christen a ship
Yeah.
and a boat and bless it before you put it in the water. Why is there a ceremony attached to that process if there
Yeah.
wasn't something supernatural attached to the water? Think
Oh,
about it.
close. Yeah. Um, I remember one time I was riding my bike, and I'm not going to lie, I may have partaked in some broccoli prior to this ride. But when I was doing it, I we had gotten a bunch of
The
rain,
devil's
like a
lettuce.
ton of rain. Yeah. And I remember I kept feeling a pull to the water because the ditches were completely full of water. And I was fighting my bike trying to keep it, but it kept wanting to go to the water. And I just remembered, and I had images of a water serpent in my head. What? Okay, Aurora, honey, I love you, but you're being a pain in my. Sorry, guys. She's she's being needy.
It's all right. Let her be needy. She knows there's something up.
Okay,
That's
you just
why.
took my headphones off. come on, man. I'm trying to. You're being a butt. That's why I put you down because you're not behaving. Ah, cats. See, people say you can't live without cats. You're starting to look like Cashew Kitty to me. But when that happened, I kept having images of a water serpent, and that water serpent was trying. Daggone it. That water serpent was trying to drag me in, and I kept seeing it, and it had this like reddish glowing eyes. It's not like really glowing, but it was really like a ruby. About the best ways I can describe it. It was like a ruby red, like its eyes had rubies in it, and it kept trying to drag me into this water. And I remember that it's like, man, it was all I could do to keep my bike on the road. Yeah, yeah. My animals are way too needy, um, and that always bothered me. And from that day on, that's when I started going. I think there's something to these water serpents because, man, I've rode my bike after partaking of the broccoli multiple times, and I've never had that happen. And I've rode through tornadoes, I've rode through ice storms, I've rode through heavy rains, hell. I mean, you name it, I've rode through it, and I've never had that kind of incident happen before. So I put a lot of stock into water serpents because I believe they're real. Now, and is that me trying to tell you that I think water is evil? No, but where there is good, there is evil, and we all
Exactly.
know that evil ones try to mimic what the good does and tries to outdo the good. So I believe that's what we're seeing when it comes to these uh, water serpents or water demons. I mean, because there is water demons. There's water creatures. I mean, there's different types of this evil that's in the water, and the water is good. Water is pure.
Well, and if you think
Water is
think
life.
about and think about the connection too, though, Eric and everybody in the chat, think about the connection of how God punished the daughters of man that mated with the fallen.
Hmm.
He made them into mermaids.
Yeah.
Another water connection. So
Yeah.
I just don't know how much more plainer I can make the world understand that this isn't a war of geography. This isn't a war of
No.
precious metals. This isn't a war of oil within the ground. This is a bloodline war,
Yep.
plain and simple. So I'd like to see Carl and Cindy come on if they're in the chat. I put the link in the chat already. So
You also got to think of this too. I mean, how many times through all religions, ancient to current, good is always battling evil. There's good gods, there's bad gods. There's the light, there's the darkness. This is something that goes through every single religion in the world from ancient to modern. There is always a battle between good versus evil. Now,
yep, exactly.
some will tell you it's a husband and wife fighting. Some will tell you it's brother against brother fighting. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on about this different types of stuff, but it's all the same. It's
Exactly.
all happening,
I,
and that's why I
I
told you. I
just
mean, I've studied.
yeah, yeah. I just believe that we have been misguided and we have been purposely diverted from experiencing the truth and knowing the truth. And I think that just based off of certain characteristics of people, people that are in the paranormal field are much more sensitive than people that are not in the paranormal field. Okay, the paranormal people out there are experiencers. They're in it to either they've had an encounter or they've had something happen to cause them to question what happened, the results of whatever happened, or they want to find out. They have this hunger to find out. Okay. That is a characteristic of the bloodline, I believe, of Christ. Because if you think about it, Christ disappeared for and wandered the world for 30 years of his life, okay, and went around and learned all the other religions while he did it. He learned how to meditate. He learned how to pray better. He learned how to, make men fishers of men, not just the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there is so much connected that we just, we as human beings just cannot comprehend. It's all connected. It is literally all connected. If we can just manage to step back far enough and look at the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I'm going to
Yep.
turn my camera off. Let's get your your thoughts on it, and then we'll see what everybody else thinks
Yep.
when they come on.
Bear, I'll get you up here in just a moment, hon. But yeah, I mean, and I seen a comment from country just a minute ago saying that serpents are real. They look like walking water. I've seen instances like that, but I think they come in many different. They don't take just one shape. I think they take many, because the ones I've seen were very serpentine. Jormungandr is a serpent. There's a water serpent. I mean, that Native American one I was talking about is a serpent. So I believe they take, that's just my personal opinion from my experiences, that they take different shapes. But I have seen odd waves out in the ocean that wasn't like the rest. Now, could that be a rogue wave? Absolutely, that could be a rogue wave. But this felt different. This had a different energy and different feel to it. So I could see your aspect as well on that. So let's bring Bear up and unmute your mic. Well, maybe.
There we
I
go.
think
Hello.
you're going to.
Hey, Bear.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
How are we all doing today?
That need a refill on some coffee for me.
I'm already on my third cup.
Yeah. I gotta walk to the kitchen. I need to break down and buy me a coffee pot for the office.
Well, all right. Well, Bear, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, okay, and just kind of describe people, what kind of a lifestyle you have and stuff, and then we'll get into the whole paranormal, supernatural stuff with what you've experienced and what you've actually, because I know you do some researching yourself, or some of your own personal investigating too. I know you do that because we've talked about it on other podcasts, and I'm just kind of curious what you think about all this.
Okay. Most of you have seen me around on other chats, and I just try to help people not be manipulated, because they have so much. They have everybody turning in circles and everybody fighting. And if everybody would just relax a minute, sit back, and look at the whole picture, and I don't know, I think my brain's just wired different.
Mm-hmm.
Because my whole life, it's just, even when I was 5, I think about 4 or 5, I experienced a lot of things before that that didn't make sense. Every time I would bring it up, my family would tell me, "Get back in your box." Oh my gosh, talk about a trigger word.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why that used to set me off.
Yep, I've been told that too.
And I remember the first time I really realized that I should probably just not talk as much was I was laying on my grandma's floor, and we were watching it was a celebration of the moon landing thing. And I was just watching it, and she asked me what I thought and if I was excited. because I was always talking about the stars and the planets and everything. And I said, well, and I just looked at her for a minute and I'm like, oh, is this what you're talking about? And she looked at me. She said, yeah. She said, are you excited? You know, you could do that one day. And I said, why would I want to go to a fake place? And she said, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
I said, Grandma, that's staged. That's like watching TV. I don't understand how you don't know that. Like, you make me sit down and watch the Mickey Mouse Club, which I hate. This is no different. And she was really upset at me and told me not to talk about that.
Well, that's
And-
understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, I understood that more as I got older. But when you're a little kid and you're just like, I'm so confused. And that's when I realized maybe I shouldn't even talk to my own family about some things.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand why my grandma worked at Golden at Coors, the Coors factory, as an accountant. I kind of call bullshit on that. But why would I have to go to a daycare that has armed military guards at the gate? That never makes sense. I just thought it was normal because I didn't know any better at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, sorry. This just someone
Right.
sent me
Take your time.
gateway papers a few days
Mhm.
ago. I never really looked into all that hubbub because I thought, oh my gosh, it's probably just more bullshit. But I barely made it through the 5th paper. And suddenly, like, I had this moment where I was like, oh my God, all this weird stuff that's been in my life that I couldn't explain kind of makes more sense. Like the guards at the gate at a preschool. We went there for daycare after my younger cousin. She would drop us off, and I never understood that. And I remember black suitcase. I remember the constant hearing tests. I remember the stupid freaking cards. And I always thought, no, maybe everybody went through this because they said it's a special class. Well, okay, then you go back to regular school, you get to going through the grades. They still come, but not everybody goes to this special class. Why is it so special? I never understood that. And then I noticed that I would be missing. I know I did something because I was on a team and I had a routine. And some days I couldn't remember stuff. And that's not like me because I'm very, very extremely detail oriented, unfortunately. And some people say that's wonderful, that's cool. Oh, it would be cool. No, it's not. It sucks. Because you notice when someone walks in a room, if their gait is off just a little bit, or maybe they stub their toe before coming in, or maybe their mom passed, or whatever, you can tell. And you don't want to invade and go, oh my God, are you okay? You just kind of have to wait. Why are they different? What's going on with them today? Why are they hurting?
Mm-hmm.
It's very frustrating. But and going through I was my dad was very abusive. He was, and I don't blame him. I got to experience my grandfather on his side, and oh boy, yeah. I can understand why my father, and I guess he has 13 together. There's 13 kids. I had no idea. I only know one, his brother. I don't know any of the other ones. There's probably a reason for that. I was constantly trying to get him to see that the way he is being is not right. I He burnt down someone's house. He with them in it in the middle of the night. Nobody in 6 counties from where we lived would arrest him. Just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Now my mom, she had left. Unfortunately, oh God, okay. He got custody. It went through court, of course, up in Denver. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, one oddity that since these papers have come makes sense now. I always had to meet with Mr. Gray. They called him Mr. Gray. I just thought it was his name. I always had to have Earl Grey tea with honey in it, and it still had this weird kind of little, I don't know, there was something else in it. I know there was. But I asked the secretary, what else is in here? And she would never, oh, honey, that's just Earl Grey tea with honey in it. I put a little extra honey in it for you today. She was always really nice, but I was always very leery because I knew she knew more than she was telling me. And then I would have to sit there and talk to him, and I wouldn't remember anything that we talked about. So then I started questioning, is this just, and maybe he's a figment of my imagination so I can deal with stress, or like, I don't know. But no, I know he existed. And then go down the road, blah, 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 blah. Years later, I got drawn into court again to try to choose between my mom and my dad. Well, I was not going to leave my 3 younger half siblings with my father because he told me that if I left, he was going to kill them all. And he would have. So I told the judge, no, I want to stay with my dad. And he says, well, did he buy you off? Is he offering you a 4-wheeler? I couldn't tell him the truth because that's 3 young lives. I'm not going to risk their lives. You don't understand, dude. And
Okay.
my mom was so disappointed. And I understand. Move forward. Growing up, I had to take care of them. My stepmom couldn't be a stepmom. And I was upset at her at the time, like, why can't you even stand up to him? You're an adult. I'm a child. I'm the one taking the beatings. I'm the one sticking up for everyone in this house. And I was so angry at her. But as I got older, I understood. She couldn't, for whatever reason. And that's okay. Oh God. There were times when I got so upset, like when he was burning my stuff in the yard. I was so mad. And I was just so angry with him that he couldn't be nice. And he got shocked and he had a heart attack. Lightning came. I don't know what happened. I have guilt because I wonder if I caused it. Or maybe something was protecting me. I don't know.
Right.
But whenever I get to that point, it seems like something protects me to where whatever is harming me goes away.
Yep.
Not
And
dead.
if you think about it too, though, another trait, or like I call it, characteristic that I look for between the 2 bloodlines, and the connection that we have to what's going on to everything in our past too, that whatever tragedy we went through as children and all that, I look at that all as being part of the plan to develop us to get to this point, to where we are able to use whatever you want to call it, our gifts or our abilities or even our thought process to make sense of what's going on in the world today. And
I agree.
you can't I just it's just a gut instinct. It's not, I don't have, any type of rationality for that, but for the most part, it's just a gut instinct that, sometimes we go through all this crap and torment, torture, abandonment, loss, multiple times in our childhood and in our younger years to make us a certain way when we're adults so we can actually move forward against what we're supposed to be. I don't want to say fighting against, but to know or be able to separate or discern the difference between the two bloodlines and what's going on in the world. That's just my own thought, but I don't know.
No, I agree with that. Because on all these little mischievous adventures, I call them, my dad would go on, where basically it was just retaliation against someone that he was upset at.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he burnt the cabin down in Bonanza. And you can look it up. It's in the Swatch County records. 2:00 in the morning, come on, let's go. And that was his. Anyway, we get in the car and go up the road and he gets out and I see him get a can of gas out and I'm like, what are you doing? And he starts pouring it around the house and I'm like, okay, I can't. And by the time I got out of the car, and it was in the middle of winter, and I got up to him and trying to talk to him, trying to talk sense into him, he had lit the match and I was so mad. And I don't know what happened in the next 2-3 seconds, but he was pushed completely away from me about 15 feet and slammed up against a tree. And I went around beating on the windows and the door to get them out. We knew everybody up there. I mean, it's small. And thank God they all got out. But I didn't know for sure because I had seen people, the lights come on, and then the next thing I know, I woke up in the snow about 20 feet away. And then I was being carried to the car and I couldn't focus. So I don't know. And I felt warmth and fur. And I don't know. Call it whatever you want. I do know that, and people make fun of me, and that's fine. There were, call him Hairy Man, call him Sasquatch, call him whatever you want. There are good beings out there that help. And there is a group that, yeah.
Something's messing with my audio. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. But just events like that kind of have happened throughout my life where you go to church. I was raised First Baptist in Salida, Colorado. My dad made sure we went there. And I remember when I was 4 years old, I had it. And I would always get sent over into the corner or for asking questions I shouldn't. So I would skip across the alley and go over to the Catholic church and hang out over there until he kind of got irritated and you need to go back to your church. If you want to join the congregation, have your family come talk to me, the whole blah, blah, whatever. So I would bounce back and forth. But I had my gut full one time and my dad was so mean right before church. And I told him, God don't like ugly. And we get there, we go through Sunday school, so we're at the main service, and we always had to sit in the very front pew in the very middle. And I had enough, and I finally, this is kind of my thing, I guess, in the middle of everything, I just jumped out of the seat onto my knees. I was crying, and I said, Jesus, if you are there, and I know you have to be. I need to know you're there, and you need to stop this. I believe in you. You need to show me something, please.
Right.
And
Yeah.
within 30 seconds, my dad had a heart attack and fell out of the pew. Called the
Yeah.
ambulance. He went to the hospital. Ever since, I mean, I didn't need any more proof after that. That there is something, call it Jesus, call it whoever you want, whatever. It doesn't matter the name. The thing is there is energy or a being or something that will protect you when you need it. Don't fight over what it's
Yep. All
called.
we got to do is ask. Yeah.
Right. People get stuck on the details of names and, oh, this specific little thing or that. Stop.
Yeah.
Just focus on good, bad if you have to. Make it simple until you can figure more out.
Yeah.
Because all this squabbling is on purpose so that we don't know what's behind the great curtain of Oz's wall or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly true. And also, you got to consider too, though, it's like I said in the beginning of the podcast today that, you can't have the yin without the yang, the good and the bad.
Right.
It's a duality type of an existence, and it's because of the bloodlines. And it doesn't matter. It even warns us in the scriptures in the Bible. Beware of the wars and rumors of wars. Okay, beware the evil governors. Why do we have all of these things in here in the Bible and other missing apocrypha and tablets and scrolls and whatnot throughout history that continually warn us about stuff like that? Those are literally points that they're making on purpose because they know that it's not a battle over oil in the ground or a battle over gold in the mountain or a battle over water rights. It is literally a blood war.
Yeah, they're basically fighting with each other and we're caught in the middle.
Exactly. So, yeah. Well, Eric, do you have any other questions for Bear?
I know in certain instances when tensions are high, and you break through that barrier that holds things back, that you can project things to make it happen. I personally experienced it too, and I mean that could be a explanation for what happened to you during them times and what happened. Because I mean, I've told this before. When I was a kid in school, school bored me. I was never good at school. I hated school. I hated school with a passion. I didn't like it. I didn't like what they was teaching. I didn't like anything about it because it always felt wrong to me. So I would go off into my own little world and I'd move my finger just like this over my pencil. And you remember them old desks we used to have that was the chair and desk combined together. The top would lift up and you could put stuff in it, and they had a little basket under your seat for other stuff too. But you kept all your school supplies underneath the lid of that desk. It was on
Yeah.
one of those. And I would take my finger and just kind of move it like this, and all of a sudden my pencil would start moving. And so we have the abilities to do that stuff. In Asian cultures, they call it your chi or your ki, and you're using your chi or ki, however it is you want to to claim it, um, to be able to move objects. Now, this is my opinion, my opinion, my theory, my hypothesis, but I think things like school, mainstream school, and you know, well, the boob tube and the squawk box and the video games that we all play is the one way to dumb us down. Where we put up that barrier and we forget how to use those powers. So in heightened situations and heightened emotions, sometimes you break through those barriers that's been put up, um, and you're able to project your chi or your key into doing things. And like we've said it multiple times, Yahuwah always said you have the power of life or death in your tongue.
We got a bunch of
Well, your
potheads in
tongue,
the
yeah, your tongue is
chat.
not necessarily just the words that you speak, but what's in your mind as well. So that's why William and I have said this multiple times: be careful what you say, be careful what you think, because that is spell casting as well. If you notice in a lot of that stuff, or you list or look at a lot of stuff, and I know it because, like I said, my family was in the dark arts very heavily. Um, you didn't always have to say something; you could actually think it and make it manifest as well. So that could be one explanation of what happened to you. I mean, I know the stressful situations like that. I grew up in a household that way too. I mean, my sperm donor still to this day doesn't claim me, and he left when I was 2 months old. He's sitting in an all male medium federal security prison in Quincy, Illinois, with the parole date of 2054. He's not going to come out of there alive.
Ain't nobody going to
And
be
I've tried
alive
to
in
reach out.
2054.
Yeah, and so and then oh my God, you got claws, baby, you got claws. Fluffy butt, come on, dude. Sorry guys, these cats are being, I don't know what it is today, but my God,
They're okay.
today. But my stepdad, which is besides my half brother's dad, was the only real dad I've ever known. And he wasn't the most pleasant of people. Oh, nine, stopa, nine. He wasn't the most pleasant of dads. I mean, he was known to come home, strip his belt up, make us line up, and beat our butts. Because he's like, well, I know you didn't get caught doing something, but I know you did something, so line up. I mean, that's the stuff that I lived through too. And I've gotten into physical altercations with my stepdad because I was, bullheaded, young, dumb, and full of, the C thing, and stood up for myself. So it's when you get into situations like that, odd things happen. They
Yep.
really do. And is me and my stepdad close now? Yeah, we're close now. Do I put up with his crap? No. When I came back from the Corps and he started pushing his stuff again, I told him, I was like, "Bub, I'm stronger than what I was strong before I left. I'm even stronger now. So I mean, if you wanna go a round or two, we'll go a round or two."
Try
That's
growing up with a father, Eric, that was a professional boxer and knocked out Joe Louis, and basically, whenever he got angry at
yeah,
you, would literally beat you to a pulp. I mean, that's literally,
yeah. I mean,
I know what you
I
mean
grew up
there.
as a fighter.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up as a fighter. I fought in the streets. I love fighting. Fighting is a passion of mine. I love it. That's why I excelled in the military and on the hand-to-hand combat training. In the Marines, we do mixed martial arts. That's what we're trained in, and I excelled in it because I love it. But I'm also older. My body don't heal as quick as it used to. It don't take a rolled up piece of broccoli or a can of adult beverages to help me get over it in a few minutes. I mean, I suffer for a few days after it now. So,
Get the
but this is
gummies.
the stuff that you got. Yeah. Yeah, one of these days, if everything works out in 9 years, it will. So, I mean, coming from that type of lifestyle, I know how it is. I mean, we're all from that generation that we were always told kids are better seen, not heard, and preferably not even seen. We
Exactly.
raised ourselves out on the streets,
Exactly.
which I love.
Exactly.
I love that. But I honestly, I have nothing against that lifestyle because it made me the man I am today. I'm not. I'm tough. I've got a thick skin.
I'm
I
a
get a
tough
little
fluffy
attitude.
too.
I am. Yeah. You're not as fluffy as I am now. I'm almost at the damn stage. You're still at the regular fluffy stage. I'm border on damn.
Oh God. All right.
So
All right. I just copped up coffee.
I feel you. I feel you on that one, Bounty, and just be mindful on that because we do have energy within inside us that we can project out. So that's just how we are, man. So
Yeah.
I get it. Don't ever beat yourself up for it. There's no need
Now,
to because it was a very highly emotional time for you.
yeah, and think about too the fact that the way you're feeling and the way you dealt with things, Bounty, that you think about the bloodline characteristics that apply to that. Okay. And that's where you get your divine intervention and your supernatural and paranormal instincts. I do believe that you might have that that certain bloodline in you that makes you susceptible to seeing more, hearing more, feeling more, and experiencing more.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of what I've been thinking my whole life. I'm wondering, and that explains why in this reality, or however you want to say it, I'm considered the bad person. But if you
Mhm.
notice, everything here is, how do you say it? Call it mirror image or opposite. They have rules and that are supposed to be across the whole board, but they never follow their own rules.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's the opposite or some twisted version of it.
Right. Exactly.
See,
Exactly.
and you got to think, and when we talk about these bloodlines, I come from the bloodline of Ivar the Boneless, the son of Ragnar Lothbrok. And if you believe some of the legends about Ragnar Lothbrok, he was the son of Odin. When Odin was on Midgard, he always traveled as the Wanderer. Okay, he would appear as an old man in a black coat and a long brim hat, and you couldn't hardly see his face. And he was known to partake of the hey Tracy, thank you. Partake of the pleasures of the human women, I guess is a good way to put it. I was trying to think of a good way. Um, so if that's the case, then I've literally got the bloodline of the gods in me. If that's how it is. Now, certain people, we all have the gift of discernment. We all can see things and sense things and um, feel, all that stuff with what's out there that we can't normally see with our regular eye. Some of us are more in tuned with it than others. Now, is that because that? I mean, it's an interesting theory because it kind of fits, but is that because we have the bloodline of these deities within us? That is a good
Exactly.
possibility. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
Exactly. And that's the key. And if you think about the teachings of Christ and even other, uh, you know, of that same time frame, as far as even other cultures, when they talk about, like with the native culture, when we talk about the circle of life and how everything's connected and the medicine wheel, and we have certain spiritual significance for certain directions and colors and all that. Why else would native people have colors if the colors of our humblatia, our vision quest, that we use and we put out our flags that we use for Sundance, um, why would they represent the colors of the rainbow if
Mm-hmm.
the rainbow wasn't
What?
the key? And I do believe that the rainbow is the key that the creator, not the the I don't know what you want to call them, the lesser gods, but the creator God
Mm-hmm.
has given us that key to remind us, over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. And that key is in every culture. You can find that rainbow, same symbols and stuff in Napoleon
Mm-hmm.
cultures and in France and in Germany and in Africa, and there's something always connected, and that was, I believe, the main thing that was put in our world to remind us every day of what bloodline and spiritual connections we should have, you know, because it tells us throughout natural law and through the weather and stuff that when do you see a rainbow? After a storm or after a heavy rainfall or a rainfall, you know, something bad brings forth the good. The Bible even says that. Think about it. The book of Revelations is set on that. You know, you have something bad happening, but at the very end, you've got the good.
Yeah.
Everything is set up as a guidance. It really is.
9.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I-
about
I kind
10.
of. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
A basic short version of kind of how I view the Bible, the world, the storyline, whatever, however you want to say it. And I don't mean any disrespect to any religion. At all. But I think maybe, and I'm not trying to put myself in creator's place, I'm just thinking what ifs. And from what I've seen, because I also, at 14, I got shipped to Utah to live with my mom. And I went from total lockdown and abuse to total freedom. And I was my own. After I was there for 6 months, she moved in with her husband down at a different place. So I was pretty much on my own. And from what I've seen, and have I went into depth in other religions? No, because if you treat beings with harshness, I don't think you're praying to the right thing towards the Middle East. And I don't mean any bad things, and I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying it didn't fit with me, is all. But basically, I would think that, to me, creator of everything, okay, I'll just refer to that as the creator, the top person. If I was going to make humans, why would I create so many other over beings, angels, whatever you want to call them, to watch out for a simple little bubble that's going to hold 2 species? That doesn't make sense. I think everything is created by design. Every creature, every being has their purpose in the dark and the light. Every being has the ability to dip into the darkness, dip into the light, make choices. I also believe every being has the possibility of being, call it forgiven for talking purposes or whatever. I think it's just growth. And what if there is no ultimate end? Because what if we're built in that image, that everybody agrees on that. Okay. Well, obviously the creator has a wife and a child too, if we're created in the image. And if I was a creator, knowing my creations are going to be flawed and mess up and experience and stuff, I wouldn't give them my true name, or definitely not my wife or child who I would be protecting. Let them work it out. And we all interact with each other for those purposes. We're all on this. You can call things evil, you can call things good, but without the dark or the evil, you can't experience the happiness or the light. And I think this whole thing is created all by design. We're all meant to interact with each other. Yes, there's going to be ones that want power and control. You can even see that in humanity. I mean, good grief.
That's because of the bloodlines, though. It all comes down to the bloodlines. It really does, folks. Um,
Yeah.
discerning the difference between good and evil is how what perspective you perceive it as. It's where you stand at in your belief system to believe what's good and what's evil. We see that in every religion around the world, especially the extreme Muslim religion. If you think about it, you know, why would they have Sharia law if they didn't think differently about evil by their beliefs? Okay, why do you think? I mean, does mankind have the right to institutionalize people for doing things that are deemed wrong, other than what's deemed wrong in the biblical literature? Um, do you have to go to jail to be pulled over for a DUI? Do you have to go to jail for something along that lines? There's so many petty things that are going on in our world today, especially in America. Um,
Yeah.
that it's grown outrageous. I can understand being imprisoned for murder, for rape, for other things that stealing and stuff. I mean, hell, in Iraq and Iran, they chop your damn hand off when you steal something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
but I guarantee that in those countries, theft ain't a big thing. You don't have thousands of people breaking down the store windows and stealing shit in mobs because of it. Okay, you don't. Plain and simple.
Because
So
people fear
there again,
consequences.
exactly, fear of consequences, and it's your perspective on how you stand and look at what is good and what is evil. It really is. I believe that whatever the Bible quotes as far as the Ten Commandments goes, that's evil. Okay, that's the bad things that mankind should not do. Okay, the things that are written like that should not be done. Okay,
Correct.
and anything else is lesser of a law because mankind has made it up. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just the controlling bloodlines that are doing that. Think about it.
Yep.
Now, I want to give some other people a chance to come in. I know Bigfoot Dwarf wanted to come in and talk a little bit, and hopefully Carl can come in and talk about the angel thing real quick. And
Nice.
but Bounty, man, Bear, that's your encounter and stuff, and what you've been going through. There's a purpose for it, and a lot of the times, just like me with this cancer, a lot of the times there is not a given reason for us to go through what we go through in this body and or in life. And I do believe that it is part of our divine makeup. And I do believe that it's because we are of one of the two bloodlines. I just, there's no disputing it. They're they want to separate us as much as possible. Okay, so that's why they do these wars, and that's why they do these protests, and that's why they do these racial motivated scenarios. That's why they separate us on religious beliefs. That's why they separate us through educational systems. That's why they put indigenous people on the reservations. You see what I'm saying? It's all linked together. Okay. It's all about who can control this world through the bloodline. And that's why I call it the bloodline wars. And I believe just as much as anything that Bigfoot, dog man, lizard man, whatever you want to call them out there, the cryptid community, the supernatural stuff that's been happening, the things in the sky, the lights in the sky, which is a whole nother genre, a whole nother subject. Because lights have much more meanings than just UFOs, people. So much more that you have no idea. And I can laugh about it because I know there's a few of us out there that know, because we deal with it on a regular basis, communicating with supernatural beings and all that come in light form. Um, and you have your portals and all that. The whole thing is regulated because of the two bloodlines. And if you think about it, the whole Anunnaki bloodline wars thing with Enlil and Enki, it makes sense when you consider everything that's happening with water and how Enki was considered the deity of the water, kind of like Poseidon was. Okay. So, and then you have,
Your
you have Zeus, who was considered, to be likened unto Enlil, okay, the older brother, the jealous god. And then you have Anu, the father, the creator of the gods, okay, the creator of the gods, okay, and then you have the bloodlines going down from there, okay. And I do believe that it's been a bloodline war all these thousands and thousands of years. They're trying to wipe out bloodlines. So only one side of the family can have control. And it makes sense. It's like having a drug war between two cartels, over turf. Eventually one of them is going to win, because one's going to be beaten down so much and eliminated so much gradually that there's not going to be enough of that bloodline to survive. They have to go into hiding and try to repopulate and come back again. If you think about it, the whole Anunnaki thing, Enki was supposed to have stayed here to control this world, as Lucifer, as the fallen, and then Enlil was on Nibiru. Now, what if Nibiru was not a planet? Say, what if it was like the moon? Hear what I'm going with this. They talk about how hollow the moon is and how it rang like a bell and all this other stuff, back in the days. And how it never moves, it never rotates, or it rotates the same time as Earth. I have no idea how the moon can stay facing the same time every single day of the year. I don't. That's not possible. You would see deviations in the makeup of the moon, and even if it's in the slightest, and we never do. Okay. Kind of like the photos of the globe that NASA puts out. It's always the same cloud formations around the globe. So, to me, I think that maybe, just maybe, that the powers that be that are trying to keep us in the dark about things are doing it because they know that Enlil and his 76,000 angels, or whatever you want to call them, Anunnaki, are going to return eventually. I really do. And is that the whole basis of the Bible? No, it's not. I don't believe so. If you think about the flat earth thing too, here's one thing too. Check this out. I'm going to show you guys something. This is the map. Okay. If you think about the term extraterrestrial, read the top of that, Eric, for a second.
extraterrestrial don't mean aliens. Hypothetical or fictional being from another world.
Okay, now look at the map. You have the islands of, let me see here. You have the the Norse gods world. You have worlds of the basically the controllers. You have all these different flat Earth things, and you look at the white ring, which they call the ice wall. Okay, how we've perceived things with the rainbow is amazing, because I've always said that the rainbow is the key. And when you have a domed rainbow, and especially a double one, maybe, just maybe, we are multiple domes on a planet that is not round, but it's not flat either. Okay, I don't believe it's completely flat like a dime or a quarter. You'd have to be a complete, I don't know. I won't say it, but I just don't believe it. But maybe, just maybe, this outer ring thing here has some, truth to it. Maybe Asgard isn't as far away as we believe. Maybe, like we talked about earlier in before we came on, Eric, that maybe the frost bridge,
Bifrost.
yeah, maybe that was actually considered in the ice bridges back in the day during the coldest time of our planet. Maybe that was a way for them to get to and from this world at that time. Maybe mythology and legends are the basis for this world. Have we ever thought about that? Maybe throw science out the window, because who controls science? The Inky bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Inky bloodline. It's the bloodline that manipulated the DNA. It's the bloodline that the fallen intermingled the bloodline and ruined the bloodline of humanity with mating with the daughters of man. It's the Inky bloodline. Mm-hmm. Okay, plain and simple. So when you're trying to discern the truth in everything that's going on in the world today, you can't. You can't, especially with AI. And I say that especially with AI because we don't know. We don't know. We're not, we don't have enough money or our own jet to go fly over another country and see what the hell's going on. We got to take the news and the media word for it. We got to take their word for it, that it's happening firsthand. But we all know how good AI is at pretending and making things look real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, that's why we have the biblical warning in the Bible: wars and rumors of wars. It wouldn't specifically state that in the scripture or any other scriptures throughout history, and it's in others too. It is in others too, folks, by the way, not just because of the Bible. It's in other scriptures too around the world, especially in India. We wouldn't have that in there as a warning if it wasn't true. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that, not getting off the cryptid subject today either, but, I do believe that the Nephilim virus is a real thing. And I do believe that the Nephilim are still here in the bloodline, a certain bloodline. And I believe that some of the bloodline, or at least not all the bloodline, but some of the bloodline of Enki has infiltrated the Hollywood industry, the music industry, the financial industry, just as much as the Enlil bloodline has, and that there's two fighting factions over the rights to the bloodline. It's just a different war. It's not a war where they're dropping nukes until now. Okay. It might be again, but I believe that, it's a bloodline war. And I think we are literally caught in the middle of it. Some of us have some of the bloodliness that have certain gifts and traits. Some of us have. I mean, the the blood quotas is what gets me. Okay, and why over the last 40, 50 years would Ancestry.com, 23andMe, and all these other things be pushing, get your DNA checked? You had billions of people over the last 50 years that have had that same thing happen. What are they looking for? They're not looking to cure diseases because, hell, they've never have cured a disease. They really haven't. The FDA is controlled by them. The CDC is controlled by them. NASA is controlled by them. CIA, I mean, you name it. Whatever fraction of bloodline has infiltrated those agencies, and our churches and whatnot are keeping us separated for a reason. Okay. And keeping us dumbed down.
Absolutely.
So, that's just my belief. So, but I want to bring some others on here and let them talk about their experiences too. So I don't know, Bigfoot Dwarf or Carl or Roxanne or anybody that wants to come on, please let us know in the chat. Let Eric know, because we are running out of time. We got about another half an hour to go. Bear, I really appreciate you coming on today and talking to us about it. I really do. And thank you.
You're welcome. Everybody just study, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the answers either. We're all trying to figure it out, but definitely there's two sides. We always know there's two sides. And then the middle ground. And it's all of our choices too. Love ya.
Take care.
Bigfoot George getting ready to come on. He's getting out of bed. I'm giving him a hard time.
Get your butt out of bed, you pot smoking.
he's like, you gotta give me a minute. I gotta get out of bed. I said, hell no, get your ass out of bed and get on. Or get your ass on. Oh man,
that's funny.
He was on here just a moment ago there with Chitty. But yeah, we'll have Bigfoot Dwarf coming on here in a moment.
Okay.
He's got to get himself all gussied up.
Gussied up, yeah. Get that all prim and proper, look and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, guys, just a quick reminder, because this happened with me on Bigfoot Dwarf's deal. Double check the people you follow to make sure that little bell icon is white, as in all, not personal, or private, because it did the same thing to me with Bigfoot Dwarf again. Because I got this like, man, I haven't seen anything from Bigfoot Dwarf in a while, and I got down there and looked, and it was set to private again. So make sure anybody you follow, that you make sure that bell icon is white for all and not private. That is, I
got to do that too with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I caught about 3 of his lives yesterday. Now that it was finally let me know they were coming back up again, I was like, "Daggone it!" Yeah, they've been doing that too. So you got to be careful on that.
Yeah, I saw that too. I got unsubscribed by a lot of the programs that I watch, believe it or not. But they've been messing with me big time, bro. They have been, folks. There's no reason to fly a military grade helicopter not even 100 feet off of the roof of your house. There's no reason, especially in the middle of the night. There's no reason to have a cursor from your mouse on your computer be controlled by something else other than you that's supposed to be controlling it. I mean, they have been I don't want to say a thorn in my side, but they are making it very difficult to me, and they're making it known that I'm getting too close in my research, and they don't like that. And try to determine which bloodline you're dealing with, and you'll know who's the good or the bad, I guess. Um, at this point in time, I'm just going to put all my eggs in one basket and go with the creator. I mean, I'm not going to pick or choose either one, either Anunnaki, to tell you the truth. I'm going to pick the creator, the one that created them. So,
Yep. Heck yeah, man. Uh, oh no, it's Gojira! Run!
speaking of Gojira, um, if you think about it, that has that has some meaning too with what's going on today. Those movies
Mm-hmm.
and the history of those movies. Because
Yep.
think about the
What is
time frames that they came out of after World War II, and the Korean War, you know, with the whole nuke thing being dropped, there's kind of a sign, that a way to deal with what those people went through during World War II, and what everybody went through. But it's definitely a signal, in the least, to show that there might be something more to what caused it, or what, what I mean. It's giving us a choice to consider, that there's something greater. There's always something greater than us. Always.
Well, riddle me this. What creature does Gojira look like?
Hmm. Yeah, reptilian.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see what everybody thinks in the. Yeah, right. I want to see what everybody in. I've got a certain little creature that is mentioned in different text that is very much what Gojira looks like. Let's see if somebody can get it.
Roxanne believes she's an angel.
Yeah, I know. I had that up. Well, I thought I did. Did I not click it? That's why I was laughing. Think about it. Gojira looks a
Joanne
lot
called her
like
a
a
bird.
Leviathan.
Oh God, that hurts when I laugh. Oh God, don't make me laugh, guys. That hurts. Oh,
Gojira looks a lot like the Leviathan.
yeah, true. Or a reptilian, yeah.
Yeah.
Roxanne's
Was
fallen.
that
God, oh my God, that hurts. Oh shit.
oh my gosh. No, I was even thinking about that when I was a pup watching the movies. I was like, man, this thing represents a Leviathan like crazy. Think about it. Go Godzilla, the king of the monsters. I mean, I grew up watching the Godzilla movies. Yeah, mine's held up by baling twine.
I
Just to get
think
these majestic.
Roxanne's are held up by her horns.
Yeah, it is. I have to change the batteries in mine from time to time so it continues to glow. I've got a cat at the small of my back right now, so I can't lean back in my chair because I have a putty tat that thinks that he's got to lay there at the small of my back.
We must be talking about stuff people don't like because the count on the viewership has dropped. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, what we talk about ain't for everybody, and that's okay. I mean, we can't just please the masses all the time. We got to cover everything, and some people like it, some people don't. I get that.
yeah, yeah.
Never said you was a mistake, but an angel's kind of pushing it.
Yeah, here's an angel. I'll show you an angel. You want to see an angel? Here's an angel. Right here. This is an angel. This is an angel.
Oh,
Yeah.
ah, Jacob.
You an angel? You an angel? Is you Jacob? Oh, good boy. Yeah.
I was just eating treats.
He was just eating treats. Oh, you got
Oh,
treats? You did?
I want a
Oh
treat.
my goodness. My goodness. Love you. I love
I
you.
want a
Yes, I
Where's
do.
my
Hold on. Let me get him. I got him.
Oh, everybody needs a little Jacob in their lives. That little guy has been doing a lot for me. That's for sure. He got me through the hardest time of my life here. So
Yeah, I've got several animals around me right now, and all of them's wanting attention.
yeah, and that's another thing too with the weirdness that's going on lately in the world. How animals have been responding to the way things are. You know, can't say it's not supernatural, folks. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yep. No, they've been like it's
Thank you,
always
Joy.
said, man. You know, there's never a better feeling than when you come home and the things that loves to see you the most and is the happiest to see you is your animals.
Yeah, that's called unconditional love. The same thing Jesus Christ is trying to teach everybody. So, which is why they're trying to
Yep.
get rid of the bloodlines. You know, that's,
Mhm.
I mean, it's apparent. I mean, it really is. I mean, if you think about it, it's so right there in our face that most of us can't even realize it, you know, that it's not about the ground. It's not about the oil. It's not about the
Mhm.
gold. It's not about the uranium. It's not about, the lithium. It's about wiping out a race, a bloodline,
Mhm.
just like they tried to do with indigenous cultures here in America. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm a firm believer in that, and I'm sorry, but there's nothing that's going to change my mind about that because it's exactly why Bigfoot went into hiding. Think about it. It's exactly why cryptids are called cryptids. They knew that not to be in the mainstream, not to be out in the open, to be hidden because they knew all along that there was this bloodline war going on. Just a believer of
Mhm.
it. I really am. So I'm not saying that
Man.
they're intelligent, more intelligent than us, but you know what? We don't know. We don't know
Mhm.
if if cryptids have Nephilim blood within them. That could be so much of why so many weird things are seen with cryptid activity. Think about it. And that is why you have cryptids connected around the entire world. Think about it. It makes sense if you can rationalize, even if it's a minute percentage, okay, say 10%, even if 10% of Nephilim blood still flows through cryptid creatures, okay, and I'm not just talking Bigfoot and Dogman, I'm talking cryptids across the board because you had the Nagas in India culture, okay. You have representations of reptile deities in Egyptian cultures, okay, and throughout the world. You have the Snake Mound in Ohio. You have Quetzalcoatl. You have the demiurge in the Gnostic belief. I mean, it's all connected, man. We're so busy wanting to discern the science of flesh and blood when this reality isn't based on flesh and blood. That was proven on the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It's not based on the flesh and the blood. Our belief, our lives in this world is based on the spirit, on our essence, our soul. And the divinities, the angelic parts of us. That's what this world is based on. It's not based on the flesh and the blood and the science, but they want everything done by science because science is the way everything's proven correct. And I call bullshit. I'm sorry, I call bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, had to go off.
Yeah, no worries. There's so many things. I mean, I've talked about it several times. In the military, we used certain abilities, tapping into humans' energy just as much as we did as their body language, their tone of voice, and what they were saying to tell if somebody's lying to us or if they're a potential target to lead us to our main target. We all have that ability to do that stuff. Some of us are more in tune to it now. Is that because our barrier is broken down more than it is others? Possibly. Is it because we got the bloodline of the gods in us? Also a possibility. I'm not saying that one's true and the other one's false. I mean, I don't know, but there's a lot of credibility to it. And I got to be careful, country, on that word you keep putting in the chat. I can't put it up too many times because I don't want my good brothers here to get
flagged. Yeah, we'll get red flagged for that.
Yeah. And I've mistakenly put it up a few times without reading it all the way through. So if you wouldn't mind, could use instead of that word, use let's see,
the land of the sickle.
Yeah, or abbreviate it in a way. And we're not getting onto it. It's just they'll get my good brother here is going to get dinged. I don't want him to get dinged, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I don't want that too much.
I'm wondering that too, Carl. I'm wondering that too. I think Bigfoot Dwarf is delaying things because he's getting himself all prettified for us.
He does.
Making himself all
He's got
beautiful.
he got to get 50. He's got to get 50 and look hard.
Hey, Moochaddy, good to see you, Christopher. Good to see you here.
He wants us to go, look at them pretty eyes right there.
God. Oh, Bigfoot Dwarf's butthole just puckered. Oh, come on, man. We love you, brother.
He's got to make himself look a little bit of snazzy.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. I was getting a kick out of him last night on his. Yeah, he done 3 lives that I know of yesterday, and I was watching him getting a kick out of him.
Yeah, I'd kind of like, I think if I can't do these lives all the time, maybe having, somebody sit in with you, like maybe Bigfoot Dwarf one day and Carl or Bear or, anybody, that wants to sit in can, that wants to do it would be, more than welcomed. So.
We have a Bigfoot sighting, y'all. There is a.
Hey, look at him. There he is.
Right there's a proof that Bigfoot exists. Look at them pretty little mustaches.
Let's see. There we go. No echo.
We got you, bro.
Sound
doing,
check.
brother.
All right.
Not yet,
Happy
yet,
Rising.
yet.
Yeah, happy Father's Day to everybody.
Likewise, yeah. Happy Father's Day to all the good fathers and good stepfathers out there.
And the bad fathers too, right? Is that
Uh-oh.
what you meant to say?
Oh man. Hmm.
Oh God, you guys are killing me, man. You're making me double over in pain. Oh, so
Hey,
how's Bigfoot
you know,
Dwarf
Pat
doing
Chadley
today, man?
says laughter cures a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to hear brother William laughing there. And I'm doing all right, man. Thank God for a new day here. You know, things have been pretty crazy all around now. And yeah, we're not, I'm not too far from downtown LA. So all the stuff, happening here is not far at all.
Ugh.
And yeah, I've been staying clear from the ground zeros. And
You
I don't
know
know, just
the worst part about that, Bigfoot Dwarf, the worst part about that whole thing right now that's going on is we're all just being used like tools. Every bit of humanity is just being used by
yeah.
the bloodlines that are doing this. And we just can't realize that and wake up that, as soon as we just stop doing as we're told, I mean, it'll end it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a trip, man. I'm just observing things, like I said, not getting involved, not getting out there. If anything, if I were to go out there, it'd be just a document. But yeah, we talk about these things and we're I feel like we're pretty I guess a bit aware of some things. Of course, a lot of things we don't know of and but yeah, no, I love that we talk about these things because we sensed it. I feel like we all sensed this was coming. Something was coming, especially with the full
Mhm.
moon. Just these past few days, we talk about these things over the years and stuff, different things happening. But like current events this past week, with the full moon and the Friday the 13th, people sensed it. Even a little before that, I think the
Right.
protests had already started. So yeah, I don't know, man, and it's just, things are really, escalating, it seems, around the planet, and, yeah,
Yep.
just keeping aware, and I'm glad to be, yeah, talking to you, brother, because, you guys have knowledge, have been in the service, and I appreciate, your guys' service and spending your time and knowledge with us now, and, yeah, so prayers for you, brother Nighthawk, healing vibes, and for everybody else, we all need some healing and stuff. We're all going through our thing and on different levels.
Yep.
And yeah, no, this is great. And so we might as well use these platforms while we can. And and so here we are. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers once again, and everyone in chat. I've seen Juliana there and a bunch of other cool people that usually hang out with you all. And it's yeah, blessing to be with you guys. So yeah, let's any
Yeah.
questions or anything, I'm here. I'll be hanging out.
Heck yeah, man. Well,
Yeah.
we're
We
kind of
love our
interested in
family in
some
the
of the things
chat.
that you carry.
Our chat family. Yeah, we love them, man. Everybody.
Sorry, bro.
So that's all right. Go ahead. We got a delay going on. So
Yeah. My apologies. Yeah, I hate I hate when I cut somebody off. It makes me feel bad. But yeah, we're kind of interested in the type of encounters you've had. I know I need to get you on a show one day with me. And I was thinking about
Yeah.
doing another Bigfoot episode next Sunday.
Yeah. We
Now I
can
don't
set
know if
that
you
up.
uh, I don't know if you ever caught the show where me and William revealed the vocalization, Bigfoot vocalization I caught out here a couple months ago. But I actually caught them
Um,
speaking language.
I possibly, but I know I've been hearing more about your place there at home, which is very, very interesting, and it's super cool to have that. I think it's I guess it could go both ways, a blessing and a curse, depends how you look at it, or depending on what's happening there. But I had the same thing going on when I lived in Northern California, where activity stuff was happening just right outside the house. I could walk out and there'd be like orbs and sounds in the woods that I thought maybe weren't your typical wildlife, and it was a happening thing. It was like a almost like a normal thing, not the strange noises in the woods, but the orbs was a regular thing as long as you could see out, into the woods and stuff if there wasn't any rain or fog or anything like that. And so yeah, things got pretty strange pretty quick. So yeah, I'm interested in hearing those vocals for sure. And you were in, I forget what state it is exactly.
Missouri.
Yep. Yeah, I was mentioning that last night, right? So I got the confirmation, and you heard I read that Bigfoot report out of Missouri yesterday,
Yeah.
which I think it was kind of a little iffy. Sometimes people
Yeah.
will post bogus reports there, we've noticed. But yeah, no, you got what is it, Momo?
So in northern Missouri, it's known as Momo, and that's where
Okay.
I was born and raised. Hey, Larry. So when I moved down here to Southwest Missouri, I was hearing the farmers talk about boogers, and I was
Okay.
like, "Well, why the hell do you want a booger, man? No, yeah, screw that. I don't want no damn booger." He goes, "No," they'd be laughing at me. No, no, a booger. Well, what's a booger? Well, come find out. That's how I learned that down here, booger means Bigfoot.
Yep.
They're
I don't
also
know
known
why,
as
but
wild man and man with wolves.
every time I hear the word
Yeah.
booger or wood booger, I think of the Scooby Doo cartoon with that oil greasy type of a looking cryptid that looks like a walking, talking puddle of crap and slime. So
Yeah, no,
to me,
it
that's
does
a
sound
booger.
like
And see,
a bad term.
oh yeah, in my neck of the woods, where I live at, um, Bigfoot, Dogman, and the Ozark Howler are very prominent. The Bigfoot and Dogman
Mhm.
travel the river. That's not even an eighth of a mile from my house. They've been both been spotted big times. We had a huge, I mean, a massive livestock and domestic animal slaughters back in the late '90s along W Highway, which follows Niagara River, and the cattle, the horses, I mean, and all this other stuff. Hey, Kevin, they had their throats, fronts of their throats ripped out, and massive claw marks down their rib cages, their sides, and their gut. They were all gutted. Now we chalked it up at the time as cougars, which Missouri Conservation, the possum cops there, they always told us we don't have cougars in Missouri. We're like, you're full of crap. I literally had one running down 38 highway in front of my truck just a few days ago. Don't tell me they don't exist. I've seen them. I've been stalked by them along the Niagara River. We've got game cam photos of these things, and they said the same thing about the red wolf and the Missouri timber wolf, which is a gray wolf, but Missouri gray wolf, which is a timber wolf. Sorry, and which I've got game cam photos of them. I've seen my first deer season out here on this property 33 years ago. I literally had a red wolf 40 yards from me. So I was like, man, you guys don't know nothing. And but the more I study those livestock mutilations and domestic animal disappearances, the more I got to thinking that's very dogman like. And this was after I learned what a dogman was. For me, they were werewolves for years and years and years. Of course, dogman was coined in 1984, but um, for I always grew up as knowing them as werewolves. So the more I started studying this stuff, the more I got looking into it, the more I started realizing these cattle mutilations or this livestock mutilations and domestic animal disappearances really fit with the dogman deal. So and they are known to travel the Niagara River.
Yeah, very interesting. We brought up the water thing last night, and I do think it's a thing. There have been some people, like some friends of mine, that have disagreed, but I think it might have been just maybe the ego stepping in there. But yeah, there is something to do
Mm.
with these water sources, and then what was I going to mention? Yeah, the livestock stuff is interesting. There had been some older reports that I've ran into from my area, actually northern Mendocino. This particular area, it's right on the beach, but you have these hills there, and I had found some of these stick structures on the beach, and along with some other things, I actually found a marble, which is like this topic that people have brought up that they like marbles and stuff like that. I don't know about that, but I did find a marble near these structures, which was interesting. And so fast forward a few years later, I found a report online of these ladies from the area that had it was back in like the early 60s or something like that, and there was sheep in the area at the time, and they witnessed two Bigfoot-like creatures take some of these sheep. And I thought that was very interesting, right in this same area where I've been finding some of this stuff. So yeah, I do think it's a thing where they take probably livestock and stuff. Um,
Oh yeah.
but I never maybe Juliana in the chat might be able to help us, but I don't know if we were having that issue of the cattle mutilations. I know more in southern eastern Oregon it was happening just a few years ago, but I think that was more along the strange, like possible, like maybe UFOs are involved. It seemed like the typical cattle mutilation type of stuff.
Lights in the sky. Yep, exactly.
When I was in SoCal, I could tell you there's a crap ton of UFO activity in SoCal. Crap ton of it.
Oh yeah,
I didn't get to experience a whole lot of cryptid stuff because I was in boot camp and then I was in SOI and weapons school in SoCal, Pendleton. But I can tell you when I was up in the northern part of Cali, training the Cali reserves up for Afghanistan deployment back when I was a combat aviation instructor. There was some weird crap up there, and that was I can't remember what base that was, but it was shut down by Clinton, and we were using it to train them for Afghanistan. And there's some weird crap that happened out there because sometimes I'd be out by myself as I was doing sniper fire upon convoys, and I was doing machine gun nest fire on convoys and stuff like that. There's some weird crap out in them brushes. I can tell you that.
yeah. It always excuse me. It always comes up that the military bases tend to have all this strange activity, also, right? Which is I find fascinating. And you mentioned Camp Pendleton here in Southern California. That's San Diego, right? Is that in San Diego?
Yeah,
There's
Hagar.
actually,
Yep.
yeah, there's some reports out of Camp Pendleton and near Camp Pendleton. I know STM has done some documentaries on Southern California Sasquatches and stuff, and Camp Pendleton has come up. Actually, the guy who was making the documentaries for STM, his dad uh was based out of Camp Pendleton. So there's Camp Pendleton connections there, and they're brought up also. There's what is it? There's a few other bases in Southern California near that area also that get reports. There's the what is it? The Borrego Sandman is what they call that. The Sasquatch in that area is a desert type Sasquatch, and there's also what is it? The Yucca Man also comes up in
Yeah.
those desert areas, which is also probably the same, could be the same creatures as the Borrego Sandman. But yeah, you have the Yucca Man and the Borrego Sandman in those areas. And we were also talking about the borders, reports of Dogman and stuff along the borders of Southern California last night briefly. That I have heard some things here and there, supposedly from like border patrols, and so yeah, that's right, not too far from there either. That borderline. So
I know that when I was stationed in the San Diego area for a while, because I had to go through Coronado Island, there was a lot of light activity in the sky and reports of Bigfoot sightings and stuff in the area, and that was back in the 80s, the early 80s, and there was a lot going on there, and I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the name of the national forest that's there, where they had a report of a lot of paranormal activity in Southern California in this one location, and they had a legend of a school bus, kids being killed there and all that, and the school bus actually still sits in the tree line. God, I wish I could remember the name of that part.
Brother William, I think I know what you're talking about, bro. Black Star Canyon comes to mind, and that's in Orange County, but it connects to the Cleveland National Forest, which
That's it.
Mount Palomar comes up, and they bring that up in the documentaries I was just talking about. That's STM is Small Town Monsters. So if you look up like Southern California, there's several episodes. But yeah, Mount Palomar, there's an observatory up there, and yeah, there's restricted areas on in that national forest where people can't go into, and that's where people feel or suspect that there might be a lot of these cryptids and stuff because people can't go in
Yeah,
there.
I actually spent time camping in that area after I got out
Wow.
of my training for what I was doing in the military, which I can't talk about half the time.
Mhm.
But for after I did that, I experienced all kinds of weird shit. And I was a young, tough dude back then, man. Let me tell you, I could drink a gallon of gasoline, piss on somebody's campfire. So I mean, that's the kind of guy I was. But
Wow.
I was, I wasn't always in the condition I am right now. But yeah, I was skilled, and also being Native American, growing up on the land, knowing how to survive, in a bushcraft type of an atmosphere for an extended period of time didn't hurt either. But I experienced a lot of stuff camping there one weekend. It was just phenomenal. The lights, the voices out of nowhere you would hear. You would hear um, screams of children. You would hear all kinds of and see all kinds of shadow movement. That whole area is paranormal city, man. It really
Yeah.
is.
And you know what?
Mhm.
Actually, I got to check out a Black Star Canyon, which is like there's a trail there that gets into the Cleveland National Forest, and I did briefly walk it one time. The reasons why I got invited out there was there's a Orange County MUFON group, and through some friends, they invited me to go sky watching. So this is a particular area they had of interest because there was paranormal activity there, and it was known for, I guess, UFO activity, which Testerman was bringing up. And yeah, they say California is like number one, like Washington is for Bigfoot and stuff. And actually, Washington is right
Mhm.
up there with UFO sightings too, as well as California being up there with Bigfoot sightings. So some
Yep.
connections there. I don't know. And they want to make California the Bigfoot their mascot now for the state. I
Yeah.
don't know if you
Well, I
heard
think
about
that's a
that.
good thing. I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think bringing the subject out into the open like we have been. But I do agree that we do have disinformation that is coming into the groups and social media and stuff, trying to break up the combined effort to prove the existence
Oh, yeah.
of these beings. And I use the word being. I don't want to call them cryptid, because to me, growing up, they were called just the lost tribe. They were called the forest people. You know,
Mhm.
and in my culture, growing up, and my interactions with them, they were no meaner than, say, a neighbor you didn't get along with. You know what I mean? I mean, it's they only did things to be mean for purposes, whether it was
Mm.
to educate you as a young person to stop doing something stupid, which is what any parent would do, any responsible parent at least, um, or it was a violation of their living space, their personal space, or their hunting grounds, or sacred grounds like burial grounds. So they everything that I did growing up, I did in correlation to respecting what they taught me also as a young child, and
Amazing.
even into my military career, I always carried that with me. So I don't know.
Mm.
A lot of people think of them as just dumb apes, and they're not. They're not
Yeah,
dumb apes.
and I feel you do
No.
know, Brother Nighthawk and Testament, both of you being, a native, I do feel there's a connection there with the Sasquatch and native peoples. And it must be frustrating for you guys just to see like the mainstream, like online Bigfoot stuff. And I know you guys having some knowledge of, with these beings, so I highly respect anytime you guys speak about them. And I'm fascinated and want to hear more. And I want you to know that I fully respect you guys when you do touch on these topics. Yeah, I would have. I try to put myself in your shoes, and I know it has to be frustrating with all the BS that you must hear out there. It's like, oh man, like And yeah, no, thank you again for sharing what you guys share, and hopefully I could get more shared with me and everybody else, because it's important. And yeah, keep that in mind, folks. These brothers are native too. So um yeah,
Well,
man. Uh-huh.
you also got to consider, Brother William is shared a history with was it with the Lakota, if I remember correctly, and during a rendezvous. And the
Mhm.
reason why they kind of left and stopped coming to rendezvous is because they accidentally unalived a young Lakota warrior during a wrestling match they used to do for fun, and they felt bad. So, Brother William can tell the story better than I can, but you got to consider this is stuff that happens. I've been all over this world. I've been on
Yeah.
military bases all over this world, and I can tell you, there's high strangeness. There's Bigfoot activity. There's Dogman. There's werewolf. There's supernatural. There's paranormal. I mean, I chase this stuff, and I've
Yep.
experienced it all over the world. And I can tell you, not all of it's evil. Now, I've lived with my what I call my guest. I've lived with them for 33 years out here. I've never had a bad experience with them. But it's like I always say, it all it takes is that one. There could be one with a bad attitude, because I'm a firm believer they have personalities the same as we do, because they're known as the elder big brother, the first beings, for the reason they were here on this planet before we were. And I
Yep.
firmly believe they have their own personalities. And there will come a day, sadly, that one of them will have a bad attitude and I will have a bad experience. But I've been fortunate so far.
Yeah, I've been one to try and influence people into not not taking a you have to literally let your science part of your brain behind when you go out and you do an
Hmm.
investigation, whether it's Bigfoot or whether it's UFOs, whatever it is, because you need to understand that there are forces in this world that we don't understand yet why they happen. And with the force people, they have been so connected to this world for so long. That's why I always tell everybody, when you go to the woods, or you go out to enjoy the mountains or whatever for a weekend to do camping or whatever, you know, don't worry about, what kind of a run-in you're going to have, or if you're going to run into Bigfoot or Dogman or whatnot, because or see a UFO in the sky or a light in the sky. Don't think those things. Go there with an open mind and a heartfelt
Hmm.
meaning of respect, because you're going into their house. It's like them
Yes.
coming to us. It's like we talked about Friday night with the black-eyed kids having to get permission to come into our homes and in our vehicles. Okay? It's that same concept. We have to respect, there's that word, respect
Hmm.
everything, because everything is connected. Okay? Everything. And I don't know how many thousands of times I have talked about that. When you go to the woods, before you go tromping in there with all your gear and your stuff and your baseball bats to whack on trees, just try taking your shoes off and your socks off and curling your toes up into the ground and put your hands on the sides of the bark of a tree and just meditate for a little bit.
Thank you.
Just soak it all in.
Hmm.
Make that spiritual connection to the environment, and you will be
Hmm.
amazed at the world that will open up to your eyes. I don't
Well,
I don't know how
you
much
also
more
guys.
plainer. Yeah, I just don't know how much more plainer to say it. I've said it till I'm blue in the face, and you know,
Mhm.
Testerman
to
was blue
me, all you're
yesterday.
doing when you're knocking on the side of a tree is all you're doing to me, and this is just my opinion from living with it, is you're just ringing a dinner bell. That's all you're doing.
Mhm.
You're calling in things that could potentially harm you. Now there are
Mhm.
differences in Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them. Oman, it doesn't matter what you call them. There are different ones. And I've tried to make that clear to people too, that, you're just like that mean, grumpy old neighbor, which I turned out to be, um, you know, um, just like that person, you know, Bigfoot, Bigfoot and Sasquatch can do the same thing. They can evolve into something that, because of certain pains or ailments or hungers or loss of family members, we all feel it. Okay. We all feel when we grieve, we get angry. We get frustrated when we grieve. Okay. They do the same thing. They do the same thing. That's why they're so reclusive and away from humanity. I mean, if I could live that way permanently, I'd live that way too. Because most of humanity I've dealt with has been terrible. And I don't mean to offend anybody, but just look at the world today. Compare Bigfoot's lives and stuff to what's going on in the world today. You know, it all goes back to the two bloodlines that I just got done talking about with Bounty and you, Eric, and the chat. It's a controlling factor, and I just think they've had enough. There's only so much anybody can take. So that's just my opinion.
You also got to consider something that you and I have talked about numerous times, and that's that old Native American proverb. When you're out hunting, you don't think that, hey, I'm going to get this deer, because your thoughts soar through the air like arrows on an open plain, and they can pick that up, right? So when you're going out in the woods looking for Big Brother, you don't go out there thinking, hey, I'm going to find a Bigfoot today. Hey, I'm going to find a dogman today. I'm going to find this. No, you go out in the woods going, man, this is a beautiful tree. Look at that squirrel. Oh, wow, I just saw a fox. Get that out of your mind, because they pick that up and they know that's what you're doing. Yeah, I had that up a little bit. I was laughing. Yeah, I got the blue light on my
Oh my
camera. It's
God.
shining in, of course, but
You're like the little
hey,
girl in Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory that ate the candy.
Doopity doo, my face is blue just for you.
Gotta take you to
But
the de-juicer.
yeah. What do you get when you get a fluffy red nose?
Oh
But
God. Oh man, I'm
so
hurting.
you have to consider that, and so many people go out in the woods thinking, "I'm going to find Bigfoot today. I'm going to find a picture of Bigfoot," and that's why they're not seeing it. I see so much paradola on this side. Look what I found. I was like, all I see is a tree. All I see is a
Yeah.
shadow. And that's the thing. They're not just going to show themselves to you. They're not. Mine interact with me quite often. They watch me through my windows. They let me know when they're in the area. They used to let me know in the area when they came in there at certain times. They're here all year round now. They do all this stuff. They do it because they know I'm not there to harm them. I'm not going to. Now, were they pissed at me when I had that documentary crew out here with me when I was on Byways of Bigfoot documentary? Yes, they were pissed because I brought strangers out into the woods that they weren't used to, and we did something I've never done, and that was do a howl. They were pissed. I picked up on it. I mean, you'll watch that documentary and see me pick up on it instantly. It's like, oh shit, they're mad. I instantly look in the direction that I felt it, and you could feel their anger. It's like, who are these people? Why are they here? What are you doing? This is not normal. So you take something out of their normal routine, they're going to react. They have feelings just same as we do. It's just common sense. But that's how I look at it. Oh, you clicked off of it. Oh, okay. I thought I clicked it. Maybe I didn't. And that's things to consider when you're out there looking for them. Left me alone, boy, it would be tempting, but I would be. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, no, I
so
totally
you
agree with
know,
the approach. The approach you
yeah,
guys just mentioned, I'm on board 100%. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
feeling that.
Well,
Mhm.
as far as your research that goes there, in California, maybe you can go through a little bit of what you've experienced and all that, and what you've learned, so
Yeah,
you can
so
share it with people.
yeah. So I first got into it just moving up to Northern California. The part that I moved to, Humboldt County, is just known for Bigfoot up there, and so yeah, it's a thing I couldn't ignore. And I remember watching the Patterson film way back and stuff. And there was little moments throughout my life where I was like maybe watching some of the UFO programming out back in the days where they would mention Bigfoot and stuff like that. And I never really like doubted it, but I hadn't gotten bit by the bug yet. But when I moved up north, it was just so in my face that yeah, I was like, all right, what's happening up here with Bigfoot? And started getting into little things. And then my brother eventually started sending me things what people were doing online. So I started keeping an eye out for what people were doing online, and eventually started finding similar stuff in my areas, and eventually just caught the bug. And I don't know, like they say, it's like I was out searching for like clues and stuff, any evidence, and I was running across some things. And then those things started, like the weirdness started happening at home too. So, people
Mhm.
talk about the hitchhiker effect and stuff like that. I question it. Or maybe the land already, possibly the land already had things going on and I just wasn't aware of it. But I started tuning in on to things that were happening around the land there, and of course, I was exploring other places that had history of reports and sightings and stuff, and that all that stuff was very nearby me. It's a big county, but it was all there, home. I didn't have to go too far to get to a lot of these places. And actually, online, there's several databases like the BFRO, where you could find a lot of historical reports, recent reports from the county, and we have the most amount of submitted reports to like BFRO and stuff. Uh, Humboldt County has the most reports on there. And so it's something about that county that the Sasquatch love, or maybe it's just something about the people in that county that happen to have these experiences. Um, but yeah, I felt like all this kind of fell in my lap. I didn't move up there for Bigfoot. But here I am all completely into it and everything. And so, yeah, things started happening. I started paying attention to things. And yeah, I would put myself in areas where I felt they were or have been before. And then eventually I found out that the Patterson footage was taken of further north in the county. Actually, it borders with another county over, which is Del Norte County. So it's Humboldt County, Del Norte County. You actually have also Trinity County to the side. It's like a little four corners of counties there where the Patterson footage was. And then you also have the Hoopa Reservation there. You got the Yurok tribe, the Karuks. So a big Native American
Mhm.
influence up there. And that's where a lot of these reports are coming out of, is near and around the reservations also. So
Uh,
something to take note of.
Yeah, and again, that makes the native connection too, because they have always been a part of our culture, and we've learned from them just as much as they've learned from us. And so obviously you've been out there enough to experience the structures and stuff, or to see things that look a little off. You've probably even come across the rocks and the rivers and stuff and the streams where it looks like somebody designed it in like a horseshoe,
Hmm.
where fish can swim in, but they don't swim out because of the
Okay.
current.
Okay.
That's an old Native American trick. That's something that we taught them hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago to do, to make sure they could have something to eat, you know, when it was rough times and stuff. Because the fish, for the most part, if you do it right, there's hatcheries are designed the same way. They use the water flow to prevent the fish from ever leaving the area that they're being held in. Well, it's
Mm.
the same concept, and Native Americans have done that for thousands of years. as long as I can recall, I've always been told that, there's certain things that we have taken and taught to the force people, and the force people have taught us too. And that's just one of them. So I'm sure you've seen all kinds of stuff like that being out there too.
Yeah, I haven't zeroed in on those particular rock things. There has been some strange stuff that I've run into with rocks and stuff, of course, like stacking and that could be anybody. There's a lot of hippies up that way that like to stack rocks too, let me tell you. But what was I going to say? But there is a connection with the people and the fish up there. Let me tell you, and I love fish, the salmon and the
Mhm.
rivers up there. We have what is it? We're known for like the 6 rivers, and so there's been a lot of how would you say, movement between the waters of the rivers and the fish and the law and the people fighting for stuff. Um and yeah, so I know the fish is a big thing up there. I love me some smoked local fish from the area, and I love fishing too. I love fishing, and I know to always leave a fish for Bigfoot too. If you do catch some fish,
Yep.
I gotta leave one behind for the big brother. And so yeah, no, I think there's a connection with that as well. The
Yep.
forest, the
Hmm.
trees, the fish, like you said, everything, right? You name it, you could go down the list. It's all the connections are there. So yeah,
Yep.
something about fish. I think yeah, who doesn't like some good fish?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
like when I go out gathering berries or mushrooms and stuff like that off my property, I don't pick the area clean. I leave some for the other creatures in nature too, and that includes, you know, Bigfoot.
Hmm.
Because it's not my. We share this property together, so it's wrong for me to go and pick the place clean and not leave some for the animals and Big Brother and all that because they feed upon that as well. So I'm not stingy. We share, we coexist, and that's the key point. Is if you want that stuff and that activity to happen, you have to learn to coexist with them. You have to respect them. You have to respect nature, and you
There's
have
that
to
R
respect
word.
all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Respect is very, very huge when it comes to the Bigfoot community. Very, very huge. If you don't show them respect, you don't treat them with respect, they're not going to be respectful to you. No, in fact, they'll probably
Exactly.
wreak havoc on you because you're not showing them the proper respect. They are the people of the woods for a reason. That's their
Yep.
home, like you were
And
saying. They know
yeah.
this is my property. They know I live here. They know that I'm friendly with them. I share with them. That's why I have so many interactions with them. That's why I get so much, evidence of footprints and structures and vocalizations. I mean,
Mhm.
when I finally captured them speaking Lakota and what we thought originally was the Chickasaw, but we're starting to consider it might be even Cherokee because how they end their sentence.
Yeah, I
That
think I
was
think
that was a terrible moment.
yeah, I think more than
Go
likely
ahead.
it's Cherokee now, from what I remember. That that's the sound that it sounds like to me.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and it's not the first I've heard of that before, even up in my area. And you mentioned, I believe, Brother Nighthawk, Oma. That's what
mhm,
the Hoopa, I believe, called them in the area, the Oma.
mhm.
And that, yeah, I've heard of them being able to speak the local native languages and
Yeah,
stuff like that. And
exactly.
you mentioned two food items also earlier, the mushrooms and berries. And berries is a thing. It comes up with the missing
Mhm.
phenomenon. Also with yeah, we've heard of Sasquatches, berry picking and stuff like that. I
Mhm.
wonder if there's other stuff going on with the berries, possible fake connection, or I don't know. But the mushrooms up in our area also, you could David Paulides actually wrote in one of his books, the Hoopa Project. He talks about there's a particular type of mushrooms that we get up that way, and I love foraging for mushrooms and stuff. Um, I think it's Matsutake. It has a Japanese name to it, but it's a very phallic. It looks like the male member, and it's supposedly a aphrodisiac. So the people are prized. The Japanese prize them, and people prize them. The local natives also, but supposedly the Sasquatches as well.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And that's something too, because that type of mushroom too was a substitute that we used for peyote ceremonies. And no, peyote is not something you smoke, folks. Okay,
Mm.
it's a cactus that we actually take the and slice into little buttons, and we make it into a broth and drink it. Okay, it's not marijuana. Okay, let's make that clear. It's called peyote for a reason, but it's not because we smoke it and roll it. Okay, as pleasant as that may sound, but anyways, that being said, we would use that mushroom and other herbs as a substitute if we couldn't get the peyote. And that's the thing. It's they know everything that we did back in the day. And some of us old farts know that, back in the day we learned from them. And it's like a give and take. It's like Eric said, respect. And when we go in tromping around in the woods, I mean, I know researchers are going to be researchers and they're going to want to test different theories and stuff. But I mean, you've got to understand that how would you like it if somebody walked into your home, started banging on your walls, started opening up your refrigerator, started, messing with your thermostat, unplugging your stove, messing with your microwave. I mean, it's the same principle. The same principle that would offend us in our own home offends them. And they have
Hmm.
tried so hard for so long to stay away from humanity, to put humanity away from them, because not really out of fear and not really out of hatred, okay, but more out of heartbreak, okay. And it goes back to the old legend of when we used to have them come down from the mountains and they used to spend days with us in encampments, and we used to almost like the Olympic Games. If you think about it, we would do stuff like that. We would have running meets, we would have wrestling, we would eat foods together, we would even hunt together, back in those days. There were things that we would do with each other out of respect and admiration for one another, and we have lost that. The one reason I can tell you and guarantee you that they don't want anything to do with humanity right now is because of heartache, is because of that legend of them coming down, and that one young Bigfoot, that one young forest person, probably late teens, maybe early 20s at the most, because we'd have wrestling matches with them just to tease around, you know how kids are, or young people are. We just joke around and we have wrestling matches just to have fun. And he didn't know his own strength, and the native person basically lost their life. And that was the first time that other than natural death, that they experienced something like that. I mean, other than hunting, you know what I mean? I mean, hunting, of course, but that's a survival thing. But even they learned from us, and we learned from them how to give respect to the spirit of the animal that you hunt. Well, see, that respect wasn't there during that game, during that wrestling match. And when that native person lost his life, that young brave lost his life, they became really frustrated and sad over it. And they never came down from the mountains again to partake in that. And ever since then, we haven't been able to communicate with them in their language. They haven't been able to understand us, and we haven't been able to understand them. And these are things that I try to instill on people to let them understand that not everything is going to be solved with science. Certain bloodlines control the science end of the industry. Okay, we've seen that. The Rockefellers control pharmaceuticals. They invented pharmaceuticals. Imagine that. The Rothschilds. It's and other parts of a bloodline are more like us, more like thinking outside the box, using more than science to evolve a theory on an existence of something. Okay, because just as much as I want to believe science will prove it, I believe that it won't ever, because it's a part of us. The forest people are a part of us, just like the dogmen are a part of us. Okay, we have, legends of the dogman tribes coming down from the Yukons and the Nihani Valley, you know, and that's, if people would just take and I kind of liken it into the days of Columbus, and when all these Europeans came here from Europe and all that and other countries, they never listened to our warnings. They never listened to what we tried to teach them when they first stepped on our shores. And they still haven't learned. That's the thing. They still have not learned. And that breaks my heart. So that's just how I feel about it and how I see it. I don't know how you guys think about it, but
Yeah, I
For
feel.
me, when I'm out doing it, oh, sorry, go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say science to me more and more seems like to be like confirming what we're saying, But anyway, yeah, go
Hmm.
on, Brother Testament.
Oh, whenever I'm doing an investigation, doesn't mean, or doesn't matter if it's paranormal, supernatural, or cryptid. I always add an element of science to it. I went to college as to be a forensic officer at one time. I still have my forensics kit, and I use it. Now there is a degree of science that is very handy when you're doing these investigations, but I'm talking about pure science, not mainstream science, not this paid off. You're going to do what I want you to do and say what I want you to say because I'm giving you this money science. I'm talking about pure, honest science. But I do not believe that will be the end all be all that's going to reveal all this to humanity. I just think it's going to have a part to play in it. But I do use it. I mean, and that's just
Yeah.
me. I mean, I love science. I love that type of stuff. And that's what I use. Like I've got a peanut butter jar sitting in my closet. As soon as I can get the money to get for the DNA test, I gotta have it DNA tested. And I haven't fingerprinted it yet because I don't want to mess with the DNA in it. So it's actually in an evidence collection kit sealed away to keep out contaminants. And when I gather it up, I use rubber gloves, and I use a face mask not to get spit or any. I try to cut and minimize as much of the human DNA element out of it as possible because that can throw off a reading. So
Yeah.
whenever, and which I've got videos on my YouTube when I collected it, and I brought it out and showed it a time or two, and that was left out when we did that documentary out here. But
yep.
I believe that there has to be a level of it, but not to consume it. And people want to consume that stuff with science, and that you can't do that. You can have a small portion, a level of it, not completely though.
Yeah. Or when they
Exactly.
use
And
the
I
science,
like what Joanne says, though, guys. I like what Joanne says here. It leads back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast about the science being controlled by a certain part of the bloodline, and it
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
true.
and it's
So
used against us. So that, yeah, that I'm not with that science. But yeah, like Testament says, the science, pure science. And something else came to mind when you were mentioning that. Do, 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 do. Maybe maybe it's downloading. I'll get back to that.
my brain does that
Upper.
too.
Mm, buffering.
Exactly, Bounty. Exactly. But I do. I mean, you guys have seen my kit. I've shown you my kit that I take out with me. Even with paranormal, I'm using people. So I love orbs. People know I love orbs. I believe in orbs. Orbs is either going to be fey or orbs is going to be paranormal. It's going to be one of those two. But you have to add a degree of science in there because not everything's an orb. It could be a dust particle. During this time of year, you got to worry about insects. When I did that paranormal investigation of the Springfield Commercial Club, and I was so excited about the orbs, that's because that's wintertime. We don't have insects flying around out here in wintertime. So it's either going to be dust particles or orbs. Now, what one thing that I use to determine if I believe that this is an actual orb is how it moves and what it does. When it's setting off my motion sensors on my cameras, it's setting off my EMF detector. That's going to be, to me, that screams orb. That it was an actual paranormal orb in that situation. But people go out in these woods and they see orbs too, and you forget there's fae that look like orbs too. I mean, the pixies is one type that has a very orbish feel to it or look to it. And a lot of times when you're thinking you're seeing fireflies, it's not always fireflies. It very well could be a fae. So you have to have that part in there as well. Otherwise, you're doing
You have to
everybody a
think about the
disservice.
brown. Yeah, you think about the Brown Mountain lights when you talk about that,
Yeah,
because Brown Mountain lights are the same thing as what Eric's
yeah,
talking about. Everybody,
mhm,
it's the same thing, the same concept. Orbs are not always
mhm,
going to be UFO related. For
yeah,
most of the time they probably are, but whenever you
mhm,
have Bigfoot reports of orbs being seen in the area, it doesn't mean that they were brought down by a UFO. That could be what I've
mhm,
always said it was, which is their chi, their energy,
mhm,
and a way for them to expand their walk in this world. We as an indigenous people, we talk about being able to walk in two worlds. And
mhm,
I talk about that all the time because I do. I walk in two worlds. I walk into the world of the shadows, and I walk in the world of the physical all the time, especially with what I have going on with me right now. And you know, the closer you understand that connection, the more you can make connections with seeing orbs and why so many orbs are seen in paranormal investigations. It is just plain simple. It's the essence. It's everything that this body represents in light form, plain and simple.
mhm. Well, I mean, look at the aurora lights around here in Missouri. I mean, the aurora lights are the same thing. You know, you got to consider this stuff. I mean, now most of the UFOs I see out here are orb looking. I mean, they're a ball of light that shoots around, dances around the night sky. And if I could ever get a freaking clear night around here, then I've got my new set of MVGs. I'm going to go out because they record. They record sound as well. But I'm going to try to capture some of them UFO style orbs I see dancing around our night sky out here. I've seen UFOs all around this world. I've seen paranormal, supernatural, cryptid all over this world, folks. I mean, there's a reason why I believe in this stuff. I've physically seen it. I'm from Missouri, the show me state. I've been shown. So, that's just what makes me a believer.
That is awesome. And to have, experienced that all around too, that's one of my things. I'd like to
Hmm.
travel more and go experience these different places like the Brown Mountain Lights. And I
Hmm.
seen Joanne asking what those were. I have heard of them. And then there's also the Marfa lights, and it might be a little different in Texas.
Marfa, yeah,
Yeah,
Marfa,
Marfa.
Texas, yeah,
Yeah, a lot of places with
yeah.
these strange lights.
Oh yeah. I mean this stuff's out there, but you know, uh, a lot of people, claim that they see orbs with Bigfoot, and that's probably true. I've never experienced that. That's just me. I've never experienced that. But when I question them as how do you know that's actually Bigfoot? I'm a firm believer that Bigfoot has a soul. We know what happens to us when we leave this fleshy body. I believe the same thing happens to them. So a lot of times when you're seeing them orbs, I think it may be the passed on ones. But the other thing too is
Mhm.
they're very connected with the Fae, extremely connected, more connected with the Fae than we are. And that could
Well, you
be
can't
Fae
live
you
in
see
the
and come around them as well.
you, you can't live in the
Yeah.
woods in seclusion without technology, without being connected to the Fae. There is something to be said
Hmm.
about that. And it's like I've always said, we as indigenous people have taken power from the environment. We used that spiritual power in ceremony and in prayers and all that. We adapted to that and we connected to that spirit. That's why we call them elementals. That's why we call them, pugwudgies. That's why we call them, little people. I've put videos out of what I've captured with SLS cameras with little people around me. And, the fact of the matter is they are all Fey related. And, that's a fundamentally grouped together type of a name. But they all have individual names too. And we have to remember that not all things are going to be seen with eyes or heard with ears. For them to see, let them see. For them to hear, let them hear. That's just the way it is. And there's going to be certain aspects of our world of humanity that just won't be able to understand or grasp that concept of wanting to have the ability to experience these things. That they don't believe in it, so they stay away from it. Now, is that a characteristic of a bloodline? I don't know. You tell me.
Yep. I mean, that's definitely a good possibility. Absolutely. Look at the jinn. The jinn are supernatural entities that was created before mankind. They've been on this planet longer than mankind has. If you study the jinn, they sound like a lot of other supernatural entities out there. And you guys have heard me say it many times. I do not believe that supernatural entities have borders. They're not human mind way of thinking. Humans think of borders. Cryptids, paranormal, supernatural does not have that mindset. And I believe they can travel anywhere. I mean, a prime example, I've said it numerous times, is the ghoul that was spotted in no man's land in France between the trenches during World War One. Look how many times both sides of the conflict was talked about seeing these ghoulish creatures coming out and taking off the bodies of the people in no man's land. What is a ghoul? A ghoul is a jinn. So you got this different. What does a ghoul closely resemble that we talk about on here quite often? A ghoul closely resembles a wendigo. They're very similar. So, man, I don't know. I mean, that's just my mindset. That's how my brain works. Okay, that's where I left off. Sorry, I was trying to remember where I left off on chat.
All right, we're back. Yeah, no, it sounds pretty creepy. I thought you were gonna mention the skinwalker, but no, the wendigo, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, skinwalker would be more closely related, like the Celts, the Celtic people, your Mesoamericans. They all did the same practice as the SW, and that's when they would either take a potion or a chant and don a skin of something and become that thing.
Mm.
In Celtic religion, they talk about the Druids doing that stuff. In Mesoamerican, they talk about doing that stuff. Well, you got them up there too, and they're barely close. I mean, the process that it's all magic. It's all dark magic, but it's magic that creates these things that we call
Magic with a
SWs,
K.
or magic with a K. That is very similar, and that's another prime example of something that's not boundary related. It's all over the world. The Celtics talked about being. You hear about these were hyenas. The Celtics are very well known for having were hyenas in their practices. They would don the coat of a hyena and become a were hyena, and that's the term were. Wear means you wear something. In a lot of my culture, and the berserkers, which is not berserkers, it's berserkers, it's bearserkers. They donned the skin of a bear and became a bear. The Ulfanar, they donned the skin of a wolf and become a wolf in battle. Same practices. They took a potion, they done a chant, they donned the skin and became that thing. That's another one. So I mean, if you're having the same type of stuff happening in cultures that didn't even know each other existed, boundaries obviously is not an issue.
Yeah, no, fascinating. And I'm gonna get ready to head up out of here. We are gonna get together for my brother doing a little fish actually for him. And I'm supposed to season it. So I'm gonna get
Okay.
myself ready over here. But I appreciate you guys getting me up. You guys got me going. I was like in bed still. Y'all were like, all right, you're gonna come up here. What's going on? So I had to run and throw some clothes on. Glad I was able to pull that off. But yeah,
TMI.
we gotta do
Eyes,
we gotta
eyes are
we gotta
broken.
we gotta set something up. Yeah, whenever you guys wanna, usually I guess I'm getting Mondays off now. And luckily I got today off. So I might have tomorrow off again. I'm not sure, but Mondays are looking pretty open for me. But I'm pretty much flexible, man. So anytime you guys give me a heads up or you guys need a hand with anything. I heard you brother Nighthawk mentioning something about Testament and whatever,
Yeah,
however I could help, I'm here, man. And just I
I
want to
appreciate it, brother.
yeah,
I
appreciate
appreciate it.
you guys. Likewise, and much love to both of you and all of you out there. And yeah, hopefully I'll keep you guys posted on what's happening out here on this front. With things having to do with anything. Even the cryptid stuff. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right, brother. We love you, man.
One love, salute.
Yeah. Salute.
Well, everybody, I want to thank everybody first off for being here today. It's been a long show. Monisha, good to see you. Um, Comments been flying. That's really good. I want to thank Larry too for gifting the membership, and please hit that like button, and we will see you all on Eric's show tonight, and I'll see everybody Friday night, and I think Friday night's when I'm going to expose the bloodline stuff that I've found out. So that's going to be an important show, and we'll take the rest by as it comes. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to have my good days and my bad days. Um, Whatever I'm going through is getting definitely worse. Um, so just be patient with me. Eric, you want to tell them what you got going on in your show tonight, and then we'll go ahead and just shut her down.
All right. Yeah, so tonight we're going to be looking into Emily Isabella Burke, the Georgia werewolf. Which I've heard a little bit about it. I've not done a whole lot, but Roxanne suggested that, so that's going to be a Roxanne show. She wanted to look into that, so that's what we're doing tonight. Next week I'll try to get it set up because I haven't done a Bigfoot show in a while. So if I can get set up with Bigfoot Dwarf, I wouldn't mind having him on here talking about some of them Cali Bigfoots. But so I got that going on tonight. I am in a stuck situation on Cody Barrett, the start of a legend, because I'm having a hard time finding some actual information I need for the part that I'm in the book. So I am back to working on Brotherhood of the Wolf and Axe for now until I can get what information I need to continue on with Cody Barrett. So I'm working on that stuff, and that's pretty much what I got going on.
And you know me, I'm just researching and not sleeping, so that's just the way I go. So at least anymore. And drinking coffee, plenty of coffee. So in fact, I got to show you what Tracy and the boys got me today. This is funny. There's another coffee mug, says "Dad joke loading." Okay, and then look what's in there.
Heck yeah!
So, Jim Beam
I'm
coffee.
I've got to get. I got to get some money saved up. I'm almost out of coffee. I'm like, oh crap, man! I haven't been this low in a coon's age. I was like, ooh,
I've
I
got,
got like
and I've still
2
got to
months.
send packages out to everybody too. I've still got packages to send to Joanne. I got packages to send to you. So yeah, I can't do that until I get my next disability check. So I'm sorry, everybody. Please be patient with me. I can only do it as much as the money supply lasts, and here anymore it doesn't last very long whatsoever. So usually halfway through the month I'm broke anyways, so it doesn't matter. But we will see everybody Friday night. Okay. And that's going to be a good one about the bloodlines. And we get more in depth into the bloodline wars. So love everybody very much. Please hit that like button and that share button. That means the most for us. And you know, and just get the word out, you know, question everything, guys, question everything. Okay.
Heck yeah. As always, peace, love, and blessings, everyone.
In the dead of night, I hear them whisper. Shadows dance on walls, growing crisper. Echoes of the past, they start to rise. Monsters lurking deep beneath the skies. Fear grips my heart. I can't escape. Bump in the night, where the fears collide. Monsters awaken, nowhere to hide. Shadows are calling, they beckoning near. In the dance of the dark, I feel no fear. Moonlight reveals the horrors unseen. Whispers of darkness haunting my dream. Figures that twist in the corners of sight. I shiver alone in the grip of the night. Creatures of